Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to welcome everyone to this evening's meeting of the Rancho Cordova City Council. We are returning from closed session, so our closed session is adjourned, and I'm going to ask the city attorney for a report out from closed session.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, the community, and staff. The City Council met in closed session this evening at 4 o'clock on one item of anticipated litigation. And on that item, the council received updates from legal counsel and took no further action.
Thank you, Adam. So our closed session is adjourned, and we to our regular meeting. And again, we'll welcome everyone to today's regular meeting of the Rancho Cordova City Council and ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Terry.
Here.
Councilmember Gatewood.
Here.
Councilmember Pulapati. Here. Vice Mayor Sander.
Here.
Mayor Budge.
Here. Thank you. Stacy,
Recording stopped.
Information about playbacks and signing in and that kind of thing.
The meeting of the Rancho Cordova City Council will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T UVerse cable systems. The meeting is closed captioned and webcast at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting replays on Thursday, March 9th at 9 a.m. and Friday, March 10th at 6 p.m. The meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/MetroCable14. This meeting can also be viewed and acquired through a DVD from the city clerk's department. And a webcast of this meeting will also be available on the city's website within 48 hours of adjournment of this meeting.
Thank you, Stacy. So we always begin our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we invite everyone to remain standing for an invocation. Tonight's pledge will be brought to us or led by our colleague, Greg Fishman, who is here in disguise from the SMUD board, but he's really working for Regional Transit tonight. And our invocation will be provided by our local resident, Jen Larrett. Thank you all. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Greg. Jen?
Dear Heavenly Father, we are grateful to be gathered here this evening, and we are grateful for our city leaders and for all those who come together to make our city great. And we are grateful for the citizens and all that they do to lift each other up. And please bless those that are in need at this time, that thy spirit might be with them, and that we might be guided to those who are in need of our help. And take us through this day in safety. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you, Jen. Please be seated. So we usually have presentations at the beginning of our meeting, and tonight is no different. So we are looking for a representative from the Rancho Cordova Gold River Seroptimists to receive wonderful, Cheryl, to receive a proclamation in honor of Women's History Month. If you'll join Siri down here in front of at the beginning of the room, in front of the room.
Can you hear me okay?
Pull it towards you.
Okay. Go this way?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Cheryl. Hello. Okay, so I'm Suri Pulipati, council member for the city of Rancho Cordova. Hello. Glad to see all of you here today. So this proclamation, the city of Rancho Cordova recognizes Seroptimist International of Rancho Cordova and Gold River in honor of Women's History Month. Now, in 1987, United States has observed Women's History Month annually throughout the month of March. And Seroptimist was formed in 1921 in Oakland, California, at a time when women were not permitted to join services and organizations. Soroptimist International of America is a global volunteer organization providing women and girls with access to education and training to achieve economic empowerment. Today, there are approximately 160,000 members and supporters in 21 countries and territories. Soroptimist International of Rancho Cordova and Gold River has served the city of Rancho Cordova and surrounding communities for almost 14 years, giving the women and students tools to take control of their future and write their own history. Soroptimist International of Rancho Cordova and Gold River has helped to provide support, hope, and empowerment to 1,500 Folsom Cordova Unified School District students and 1,300 domestic violence survivors by making and providing comfort kits. Soroptimist International has presented over $25,000 in Live Your Dream cash awards to 28 head of household women who are working on completing higher education. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of Rancho Cordova does hereby recognize Soroptimist International of Rancho Cordova and Gold River for advancing advanced educational opportunities and promoting health and well-being in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, thank you. Okay,
Thank you, Cheryl. Would you like to take a minute and tell us what Live the Dream is?
yes, I would. Live Your Dream is a head of household cash award. It's not necessarily a scholarship, although people do call it a scholarship. It is for head of household women, which that's broadly defined. It could be someone who's a caretaker for an elderly parent, or we've had applicants who their parents were killed and the older sibling became the guardian of the younger siblings so that they became the head of household because they were the sole wage earner for the family. So there's a lot of different definitions of what head of household women are. But it is a cash award, usually ranging anywhere from $500 to $1,000, depending on our fundraising efforts. We try to give as much as we can. And this year, actually, we are giving away $2,000 spread amongst 5 women. So that's awesome. And then they can use the money for whatever they need it for. If they need to pay for books for college, or pay rent, or put gas in the car, or pay their enormous PG&E bill, or whatever they need, whatever gives their household some financial stability.
That sounds terrific.
And
Thank you, Cheryl.
yeah, we're also doing a Dream It Be It program in a couple months, which is for high school students, and to prepare them for career and life. And we're doing various workshops with them. And we're also delivering more comfort kits, which the Rancho Cordova Police Department is helping us distribute. So
It takes a village.
yes, it does.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you for this.
Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move into public comment. And of course, state law provides that citizens wishing to address the council for any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time. You'll have 3 minutes, and we do have an opportunity, there will be an opportunity for everyone who came to speak to specific items on the agenda to do that at a later point. So remember also, please, that whatever items you bring forth under general public comment is not something we can take action on tonight, but we can absolutely put you in touch with a staff member that you might need to discuss something with, or schedule something for a later agenda. So Stacy, do we have anybody for general public comment?
Brenda, can I ask the question with the 2 items that you gave me? One is 18.1, the other one, is that general public comment? Thank you. Okay, yes, we do have general public comment. We will start with Mark Berry. Following Mark Berry will be Jeremy Crone. Following Jeremy will be Greg Fishman. And then we'll leave it with that for now.
Okay. Mark, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for this opportunity. I just wanted to say in June 2020, the city planning issued a mitigated negative declaration regarding the Kinder Morgan expansion of its tank farm and off-site rail yard construction down Folsom Boulevard. Among the CEQA criteria for a city to issue an MND is that the proposed plan is consistent with applicable development plans. My neighborhood responded with a 30 pages detailing inconsistencies and omissions with the applicable general plan, specific plan, and zoning. And our comments included identification of where the applicant's consulting expert reports contained substantial omissions. Thankfully, the City Council did not approve what we saw as a bad plan, but we'd spent our time and treasure on pointing out the omissions, and we wondered, how did it get so far? In 2021, regional housing needs assessments were discussed at a public meeting. Then Council Member Budge motioned to remove the CASA site from the RENA assessments. Council Member Terry countered instead to leave the RENA allocation on the property to keep the city's options open. During the council's RENA discussion, it was neither disclosed by city staff nor city attorney that the city council may be giving up discretionary authority by voting to allow a site to retain a RENA designation. At the March 2023 city training session on statutes associated with the Housing Accountability Act, our city council was informed a RENA housing designation may entitle a piece of property to development by right or create potential waivers of conditions and discretionary decisions on city council, which our city council may otherwise not have had. Again, we wondered. In 2020, city planning was processing an application for development of the Casas site, which is adjacent to a wild and scenic designated river within a designated floodway. And this was being processed on the basis of an MND tiered to an MND. After the public informed City Council of the environmental, historical, and cultural significance of the project, an EIR was required. Again, we wondered, how did this get so far? Subsequently, after that EIR was required, the property has been cleared and graded multiple times in violation of the city municipal code that required a grading permit with CEQA review, a stormwater pollution prevention plan, and a tree protection plan.
Your time is up.
Okay. The public is concerned by a perceived failure of the city to follow its own development standards, and that the city council is not being adequately advised. Under such conditions, how is city council to receive complete factual information necessary to reach an informed decision? Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Next speaker is Jeremy Crone.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Speaking on behalf of my mother of 80 years in mid-stage Alzheimer's and myself, to note to you to date that today marks 7 months and 2 days since her sexual assault incident, reported immediately to police by myself, that I have no police report. Despite footage viewed by police of unwanted, unlawful touching her account and my witness account, which would constitute reasonable articulable suspicion of a crime, to my knowledge, no contact was made or even attempted to approach the perpetrator. They did not address the perpetrator 100 yards away, literally, and made no attempt to ID him, to run a history, as happens in police stops and minor incidents all the time, or to question him about the incident, which kind of reinforces the pathology within him. I'll get to that, but the perpetrator is a resident of the mobile home park where we live and has more than a dozen, actually more than that, prior incidents there, which include similar unwanted touching and kissing, pulling of hair, touching of face, and more that I can't get into. I've spoken to dozens of women. Literally about 65% of the women I took talked to about 40, 45 women. Say about 2/3 of them either had knowledge of or direct experience of. Some have been able to ward him away, but he's a longtime, wide-known perpetrator. Privately, people are, supporting me, but it's hard to get women to come forward. You have to come to the podium like this, but it's just hard to do. I need that report produced immediately, and I want you to know this represents institutional failure, and that the police completely failed us, and that the perpetrator has learned, again, it has been reinforced into his sickness, his mind and his pathology, that he can get away with this again and again. This is kind of the part of the problem when you do nothing about it. I also need to say something we privately know, that if the perpetrator had done this to any friend, relative, associate, or affiliate of any officer, wife, mother, sister, daughter of any officer, the perpetrator would have would have had a completely different experience. And I think we all know that, per the sheriff's deputy's discretion allowed in these circumstances. I also have to add that, running out of time, but for women, I now understand why women don't come forward, and how this is cyclical, and how it's a problem. You risk being shamed personally, insulted, undermined, your voice silenced, your experience nullified and reduced and invalidated in every possible way. There's an incentive to stay quiet and to just let it just go. But just to let you know
Your time is up.
that this is a failure.
Thank you, Jeremy. The city manager will continue to work with you on resolving this. Thank you.
The next speaker is Greg Fishman.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. Most of you know me as a member of the SMUD Board of Directors. I'm not here in that capacity tonight. I recently started a new day job with Sacramento Regional Transit, and so I wanted to just introduce myself to you in that capacity and give you a quick update on a few things that RT is working on that impact Rancho Cordova. First of all, thank you, Mayor Budge, for your continued service on our board. We appreciate that very much. I did want to mention that we have begun work on the Gold Line light rail station retrofits, and so we're purchasing new low-floor light rail vehicles. We'll be taking delivery on those relatively soon. They do require minor retrofits to the stations, but that also requires them to be closed as that retrofit is happening. We're doing all that work over the weekend on individual stations, and then they reopen on Monday. So the next one actually will be the 39th Street station will be closed starting Saturday, March 11th through Sunday, March 12th. There's always a bus bridge in place, and if people do have more questions about that, there's information on our service alerts page at sacrt.com. The new low-floor light rail vehicles will replace the original vehicles that were still running from 1987, and they provide much easier and better ADA access for people with in wheelchairs or with bicycle strollers, anything on wheels. We'll be working on the Folsom Passing Track, breaking ground on that soon, which will allow for 15-minute service to and from Folsom instead of the current 30 minutes. That will, again, we'll be breaking ground on that relatively soon. It may take a while to finish that project, but that's something that's coming on our horizon. I know the Mills Crossing development is on your radar screens. It is on ours as well, and I just wanted to let you know that we are working with your staff on a regular basis to ensure that we're aware of the timing of that, and we'll be making some upgrades and changes to our Mills station at the appropriate times as that development comes online. And then finally, I just want to let you know that there's a relatively new level of cooperation among SAC-RT, SMUD, the Sacramento Regional Air Quality Management District, and SACOG, so that we're supporting each other on various grant applications that we make to the state and the federal government, where we have alignment on mobility and other efforts to reduce pollution and carbon production, reduce vehicle miles traveled. And so that's a new level of cooperation among those four organizations that I think is really exciting. So again, a pleasure to speak to you this evening. You certainly know how to reach RT through Mayor Budge on our board, but and I think you also all know how to reach me, and if I can be of any service, I'm happy to do so. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Greg. we've talked about, because we'll be making council reports, and I've talked about the construction for the low-floor vehicles, and those are going to be a huge change and very welcome. My little mother, who was very agile, was simply not tall enough to get up those first two steps into the current cars. So this will be great.
Yeah, it really will make a difference for a lot of different people. And even, just like I said, if you have a bicycle or a stroller or something, it'll be a lot easier. And we'll be able to eventually get rid of the mini-high ramps
Right.
that are currently in use to get people up to that level of the actual floor of the high-floor cars. Not to mention, we have vehicles that have been in service for a long time, and it's time to replace them. So,
They rattled.
absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Okay.
Next speaker is Shadakashi, and following her will be Brenda Gustin.
Welcome.
Dear Mayor and City Council member, Namaste. My name is Satakshi and I'm a proud resident of Rancho, Cordova City. I am a current junior at Pleasant Grove High School, and I wanted to briefly share about the recent conclusion of the 16th Annual Health for Humanity Yogathon. The Hindu Swayamsevak Sangh USA, also known as HSS, hosted the 16th Annual Health for Humanity Yogathon, also known as the Surya Namaskar Yagna, in many cities throughout the greater Sacramento region. It is a 16-day event objective to raise awareness about yoga and its advantages in achieving a healthy body, mind, and spirit. Sun Salutation is a 10-step sequence that is a merged combination of simple yoga asana with breathing exercises to perform immune health benefits for both mind and the body. The SNY inauguration event was held on January 14, 2023, and there are a total of 25 attendants performing the Surya Namaskar while taking pledge to the goal to perform certain numbers of sun salutation each day during the yagna period. During the SNY event, participation were expected to enter SNY count with the app and encouraged to use the SNY practice app within to help provide a sense of convenience to the participants. During the closing ceremony and the SNY Marathon, which was held on 29 January 2023 with more than 70 participants, Council member of Rancho Cordova, Sri Pulaparthiji, attended gratefully participated in the event as a chief guest. She encouraged people of all ages to make yoga as an essential part of the daily routine, and she also distributed awards for the participant with the maximum Surya Namaskar count within each category. From 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., nonstop SNY practices were held as part of the SNY Marathon, and members of all Sacramento area chapter participated, counting over 220,000 Surya Namaskar, and box lunch was also served to them afterwards. We are honored and delighted to report that more than 46,133 Surya Namaskar were performed as part of the 16th Annual Health for Humanity Yogathon this year by all participants in the greater Sacramento area. Even further, a teen chapter had the highest SNY count of many chapters in California itself. Roseville had the highest SNY count of 27,422 for any city in California, and it was ranked the second in the United States. For over 200 participants for all over the United States, including 400 from California, as part of the Health for Humanity Yogathon, 4,922, 648 Surya Namaskar sets were concluded from across the United States. I wanted to thank the City of Rancho Cordova for being part of the SNY from behalf of HSS, and thank you all, and Dhanyavad. Namaste.
Thank you. So you've talked about an app. Is there an address you want to give people?
So the app is to help you count about the number of Surya Namaskar you do. So Surya Namaskar, like I said, is the yoga poses. So every time they're done in a set. So you do one set and that's count as one. And the app can be downloaded on your phone. It's called HSS. And it's a way for you to keep track of the amount of Surya Namaskar you have done.
Maria, are you still there? Why don't you talk to her and see if it's something that we could put on the website? Okay, so see the lady in the back?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Brenda Gustin.
Brenda, welcome.
Good evening. I respectfully ask these questions and provide these comments directed to activities relative to the Casas Trumark property. It is my understanding that governmental bodies and their staff are elected and hired to ensure that general plans, specific plans, zoning, city regulations, and codes will be adhered to and enforced by the city. Therefore, I will appreciate a straightforward answer to the following. Why would the Rancho Cordova Planning Department ever consider an application from a builder to place a development in an area known to be out of alignment with existing rules? Why wasn't the initial proposal denied with recommendations for a successful development? Why would the Rancho Cordova planning staff post a proposed project inconsistent with the city's own rules on their website without naming it proposed until over a year later? This led to many citizens thinking that the city was complicit with development that does not follow the city's rules. Why, if the developer by its own comment states that the city advised a full EIR was required, would the city allow a property to be cleared and graded without a permit multiple times without the CEQA process required by the permit process? Isn't the city staff and council supposed to advise and adhere to rules? And lastly, for now, why was the developer allowed to illegally grade, desecrate, and degrade the land, including the plants, trees, and natural habitat, without permits and without any legal consequences as clearly outlined in the Rancho Cordova municipal codes that have been repeatedly cited by the citizens to the government officials and their staff? In the SB 330 workshop on February 28, 2023, the city stated they are not responsible for state and federal law and will not reject proposed development that violates state and federal laws and regulations. If that is where the city sits with regard to their responsibility, then I would like them to focus and act upon the laws and codes they do govern. Please act on the ones that have already been broken. You have allowed a treasured piece of ground to be repeatedly cleared, grubbed, and graded without a permit and CEQA. When are fines going to be imposed? When is the city going to demand restoration of the land? Or is the city implicitly allowing its destruction in anticipation of a development not yet presented to council or approved and without the CEQA protections we are entitled to expect from our city? Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Brenda. Next.
I received a speaker card from Benny Glover. Benny, it's not clear to me if your item is general public comment or if you're wanting to speak under another item. Is Benny in the chambers?
Okay, why don't you hold that one?
Okay. The city clerk's office did receive a couple of emailed public comments under general public comment. One was from Brenda Gustin, and the second public comment was from Jeannie Bolden. And I'd also like to acknowledge that we have a public comment via telephone. And I'm going to go ahead and unmute the caller with area code 91680. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. You'll have up to 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, everyone. This is Faiza Mughal in Lincoln Village. Tonight, I'm calling as a board member of the Bicycle Advocates for Rancho Cordova, and I'd like to invite the community to participate in a memorial ride. BARC, the Bicycle Advocates for Rancho Cordova, will be hosting a memorial ride on March 19th, which is a Sunday, at 2 p.m., in honor of Timothy Fairall, who was the gentleman that was attacked with a machete while riding his bicycle in Rancho Cordova. Unfortunately, Mr. Fairall did not survive his injuries. So BARC would like to host a memorial ride in his memory on Sunday, March 19th at 2 p.m. The ride is brief. It's about 3 miles, casual pace. We meet at KP Market at 2 p.m. and we'll end up at Alstrom Park about 2:30 to 2:45 p.m. People who are interested in joining the ride can RSVP online at tinyurl.com/ride-in-peace. Again, that's tinyurl, one word, .com ride in peace. Residents that are interested in showing support but don't want to participate in the riding portion are welcome to meet us at Alstrom Park between 2:30 and 2:45 p.m. on Sunday, March 19th, where we will say a few words in honor of Mr. Farrell and then disperse. So again, anyone is welcome to participate. It's open to the public. You can RSVP at tinyurl.com/ride in peace. And I'll see you all there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Faiza. Anybody else? Oh, yes. Okay, welcome.
Benny, my question for you is, I'm the city clerk. I'm right here. I know you're looking around. My question for you is, do you want to speak under general public comment, or is your comment for a different item on the agenda?
It's just for the proposed development. So general contract, I guess.
No, we'll have public comment when we get to that item.
Okay,
So
Thank you.
I'll call you back up.
thank you.
That's all the public comment that I have, Mayor Budge.
Okay, thank you. In that case, then, we will go on to council reports, and we'll start with Donald.
In light of the number of people here that I think want to hear about other stuff, I'll go ahead and forego my statement today,
Okay,
or my report, excuse me.
Garrett.
I'm gonna make it real quick because there's a lot of people, a lot of information. If you guys don't know, opening day for RCLL was this weekend, and a good friend of mine that ran every Little League baseball, not the only thing he didn't run was soccer and softball. Dennis LaMentia had the field named after him, and just think that he's an amazing individual, and I can only imagine that more citizens were like him. That's it. I'll move on.
Thank you, Garrett. Siri.
I'll make mine short as well. Really quick pitch. I attended a speech competition here at the City Hall that was with the Suvida nonprofit organization. It was a wonderful performance by the middle schoolers here of the city of Rancho Cordova, and I also attended a chess competition. It was great to see the young minds engaged in the game. Also, I would like to make a pitch for the Holi Festival, which is the Festival of Colors, that is going to be on March 11th at the Capitol Village Greens. So, I would recommend all of you to go out there and have fun. It's a free event. Thanks.
Thank you, Siri. David.
It's been a busy couple of weeks. I'll also summarize. We had the Clark Massey track meet return to Cordova High after many years of absence, several years of absence. I want to thank Anthony Davis, the head coach of the track team there, for accomplishing that. It's been a dream of a lot of coaches to bring that back. Clark Massey was a legendary track coach at Cordova High that at one point won, I think, about a dozen track championships in a row for Cordova High School, and really put that high school on the map as one of the great all-time track high schools. My Academic team did great from Rancho Cordova this past weekend. Very proud of them. Rancho Cordova Little League had a great opening by all reports. I was unable to attend that because of the Academic competition. Attended a number of other meetings I will not list. I also judged the National League of Cities Capstone Challenge, which was a bunch of technology presentations or solutions to tough problems proposed by cities and private sector consultants. There were 6 contestants in the end, and about 5 of them I think we could apply here in Rancho Cordova. So I'm looking forward to talking about those more. It's really exciting to see what's happening on the cutting edge of cities dealing with their residents and their own issues. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yes, Garrett and Donald and I joined some 600 or so Little Leaguers and their families and froze on Saturday morning. It was so cold. And you have to appreciate these little kids. Some of them are just, totally pint-sized, and they all showed up. The city participates in 2x2s with the fire district, and the statistics from the last few months at Sac Metro Fire were presented. The county, our county 2x2 was really productive because the city and the county are really working together to create a solution to the homeless problem on Citrus Road over by the Mobile Country Club, Mobile Home Park. And there is fencing coming, there is chain link coming. The police department's hot team, the police department, Golden State Water next door, everyone is working together to create some solution over there to make it more pleasant for the people who live in the mobile home park. The fourth stage of Mather Veterans Village is actually in design, and our staff is looking for money to fund that. KP, if you haven't noticed, opened an amazing new bakery. They completely redid the bakery that they had before, and they're making everything, as BJ says, from scratches. And everything that we tasted was just delightful. And then finally, about 100 people were all very privileged to hear one of our most delightful Rancho Cordova residents, Kiyosato, talk about her experience in the internment camps during World War II. And we have several local residents who were actually born in those camps, like at Poston. And until the 25th of this month, you are able to go over to the MAC on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and check out the exhibit called Righting a Wrong. It's a very powerful exhibit, and people here in Rancho Cordova, it's a traveling exhibit from the Smithsonian, but people here in Rancho Cordova actually have family members who are in those photographs and have contributed memorabilia from that era. So we encourage everyone to go over to the MAC and see that exhibit. And then with that, we'll go to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick, brief updates. One is SACOG Green Means Go Award is being recommended for the Mills Crossing project for the amount of $5 million on March 16th. So that was a successful grant application, and hopeful to get that final vote on March 16th from SACOG to add to the Mills Crossing project dynamic team that's working on it. So thank you for the team for putting that grant together. And the largest award from the program came to Rancho Cordova. So second is the Rancho Cordova Youth Center, RCYC, opened last Monday to the youth. And so that was an exciting event. The Boys and Girls Club and Rancho Cordova Police Activities League is up and operating at that facility 5 days a week for the Boys and Girls Club, 2:30 to 6:30. And they continue to grow their enrollment and interact with the community, and look forward to future successes from the operations of the RCYC that opened up last week. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Micah. And I will tell you all, for you who have kids and grandkids, they're developing waiting lists for a lot of the programs that are really popular, like boxing. So be sure you get your kids over and get them registered. We will move into our consent calendar items. Consent calendar items are deemed routine and can be approved with one motion unless we have any public comment.
The city clerk's office has not received any public comment for items on the consent calendar, and I'm looking at Zoom, and I do not see any hands that are raised.
Move the calendar.
So that's items 16.1 through 16.4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please, Stacy.
Councilmember Terry,
Aye.
Councilmember Gatewood,
Yes.
Councilmember Pulapati,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sander,
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Yes, thank you very much. We have no consent public hearing items, so we will move into our public hearing item. Stacy, if you want to call the item.
The subject of item 18.1 is the Logista Center at Rancho Cordova Major Design Review, CEQA exempt pursuant number section 15183, project number PLND 10210015.
Thank you. Darcy, Nick.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor and council members. Nick Sosa with the Planning Department. Tonight's presentation is for the Logistics Center at Rancho Cordova. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to restate the requested entitlements by the applicant, to address various concerns raised by the community and by legal representatives. Also, we'd like to highlight changes made to the project since the project initially came to council in April of 2022, and this includes modifications to the site plan, landscaping, off-site improvements, and conditions of approval. Lastly, potentially close the public hearing and ask questions to staff and the applicant, and deliberate and provide staff direction to prepare documents for final action on March 20th. The applicant is requesting a major design review entitlement for a 155,040 square foot shell industrial building with an accessory office area, loading dock area, and commercial vehicle parking. The property is zoned BP, which also allows for uses under both the BP and MP of the 2003 Sacramento County Zoning Code, in which warehousing is listed as a permitted use under Table 4. Because the use is a permitted use, council's discretion is limited to the design of the building and not the use of the site. So to address some of the continued concerns that have been received since December 5th, since the December 5th council meeting, staff has updated the frequently asked questions document that was provided at the December 5th meeting. The updates include additional topics discussing concerns on air quality and particulate matter, truck parking on public rights-of-way, environmental questionnaire requirements, and the annual review of the development agreement. The updated FAQs was included as part of tonight's council package. And to address the legal issues that have been raised since the last meeting, I'll turn it over to the city attorney.
Thank you. Thank you, council members, the community, and staff. I'm going to be giving part of our presentation, and Tim Kremen from my office will join me on CEQA. The city asked to supplement the city attorney's advice on this subject with a supplemental independent opinion from a leading law firm, Hanson Bridget. And Hanson Bridget is a firm that hasn't worked with the city before and has never worked with the city attorney before. And we asked them for their thoughts on this overall matter. And their conclusion was consistent with the advice that I had been giving on this subject and our office had been giving on this, and really focused on two sets of core legal issues. I think that there are a lot of different points that have been raised by both the lawyers who have been involved as well as the community, but they really revolve around kind of two core defining sets of legal topics. And those are, is the development agreement valid, and is the project exempt from further CEQA review? So you just heard staff say a few minutes ago that the focus here is on design review, not on use. And that's because it is the opinion of both the city attorney's office and outside legal counsel that the DA is valid and effective, and that the DA vests that zoning, vests that use that you just heard staff talk about. The second issue was is the project exempt from CEQA review? And Tim will talk about that in a couple of minutes. And that really means, does the city have the ability to stop this current process and instead go and do additional environmental review, go do a supplemental environmental CEQA document, a supplemental EIR, or a subsequent EIR that would look at the particular additional issues. And as you'll hear from Tim, and consistent with outside legal counsel's position on this, not only could the city not choose to do that, but the city can't do that, that there's been a significant body of evolution in CEQA law that's really focused on the right to proceed with and rely upon pre-existing CEQA documents. When you go through a detailed CEQA review for a project, the law places the burden on cities to be able to show, or communities to be able to show, that those CEQA documents were in fact not enough to be able to proceed forward. So Tim will talk about that in a few minutes. But again, overall, both the city attorney's office and Hanson Bridget, outside independent counsel, concluded that the answer to both of these two questions is yes. And let me just expand a bit on the why. First, we did look closely at the LAFCO resolution, and our shared conclusion is that it made the prior DAs initially binding, and that it was not challenged, and that it makes subsequent actions to extend the DA valid. And there will be talk tonight from different members of the community about a particular section of the DA law, 65865.3. And our shared conclusion is that the durational limitations in that do not apply, and therefore the city's actions on this DA have been valid. A second broad set of issues having to do with the DA is really about the history here. And there have been multiple city actions. There have been, in fact, a pattern and history of 20 years of city actions related to this development agreement on amendments, and they together show that the city believed that the developers who were processing and asking for amendments or changes believed that the DA was valid. And under land use law, the statute of limitations and the time to challenge those actions, those sorts of procedural actions, are when they're taken, generally. We can certainly talk more about that and explain that a bit further as the evening goes on, but the time to challenge those actions has passed. The time to declare the DA to have been invalidly processed 20 years ago is past. So I'd like to take just a minute to review the history of what some of those are, just to explain some of the particular context there. First, there was an amendment, there was an action in 2004. The city, in a single action, processed many development agreements on new projects. And in that action, it processed an ordinance that actually approved 7 development agreements, and the villages of Zinfandel and the villages of Zinfandel DA amendment. And that amendment refers back to the DA that was adopted by the county in its entirety, and says that except as expressly amended by this, all the provisions and terms and conditions of that DA remain in full force and effect. So then a number of years later, in 2009, and that first 2004 action wasn't challenged, the city didn't challenge that, nor did the city challenge the underlying LAFCO action. Then 5 years later, in 2009, after a planning commission hearing at which there were no public comments, after full notice and discussion with the community, or opportunity for the community to discuss, the council amended the DA, and again stated in that amendment that the agreement and the amendment are consistent with all of the substantive elements of the DA law and all the procedural requirements of the DA law, and instead that all the terms and conditions and provisions of the DA and agreement remain in full force and effect. Then most recently, in 2016, the council considered a amendment to the DA, and again said that the amendments being processed consistent with all the procedural requirements of the DA law, including the sections you'll hear talked about here tonight, and again said that except as expressly amended, all of the terms and conditions and provisions of the DA remain in full force and effect. So procedurally, if anyone had had issues with any of those actions, for better or for worse, we believe, and outside counsel believes, that the time to challenge those would have been at the time those actions were taken. That it is not now before the council to declare the DA to be invalid. That what we're here to do is to process and consider a design review application. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tim Kremen to talk briefly about the CEQA issues and why we're where we are on the CEQA analysis.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Tim Kremen. I'm with the City Attorney's Office, and I specialize in CEQA and land use law. I briefly want to summarize what's in the staff report about the application of CEQA to this particular project. The project is exempt from CEQA review under CEQA State Guidelines Section 15183. That section creates an exemption for projects for which an EIR has already been certified, and the project is consistent with the use and development density established by the existing community plan and zoning. The only exception to this exception is for project-specific significant effects which are peculiar to the project or its site. This exemption applies because the project is located within the Village of Zinfandel Special Planning Area, and the environmental effects of the proposed project in this area, including a warehouse use, were analyzed in 2 EIRs certified by the county in 1988 and 2002. These EIRs, done in accordance with CEQA, analyzed all the environmental impacts from the proposed uses, including air quality impacts from vehicle emissions and uses, including particulate matter emissions. Warehousing is a permitted use by right on the project site. For this project, there are no project-specific peculiar effects for this use, which is supported by technical studies, including studies involving noise and traffic. The CEQA review here is also constrained by the type of approval before the council. Design review is the issue before the council. CEQA law says that the type of review is constrained by the type of approval that the council is considering. Therefore, the city can only consider environmental effects related to the design review issue before it. Environmental effects raised during this proceeding relating to human health impacts from toxic air contaminants or greenhouse gas or impacts on biological resources are not related to the design review issues before the council. So therefore, on the basis of the exemption and the type of approval before the council, the project is not subject to CEQA.
So I'd like to briefly thank Tim. We have a number of members of our office's team who litigate and work on CEQA issues and land use issues throughout the state. I'd like to thank also Hanson Bridget. We had their managing partner lead a team of folks who really looked closely at the community's issues on this, who did so with an open mind. And again, our conclusion for the council here tonight is that the agreements, the DA is valid and enforceable, that the project's exempt from further CEQA review, and that the issues before you are design, not use.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Adam. Back to staff.
Yes. Okay, so I will quickly go through the changes that have been made since the original project was brought to council. This here is the original site plan that was submitted with the project. This is the most recent site plan. Since the site plan, there has been a few key modifications, including the increased truck screen wall from 10 feet to 12 feet in that top circle up to the north. That circle below that is the modified driveway at the Bear Hollow at Bear Hollow to restrict the truck access to Bear Hollow, north of the project site. Below that circle is the added building pop-out there to better screen the loading docks from the public right-of-way. And finally, that bottom circle is the added vehicle access to North Mather to allow passenger vehicles direct access to North Mather. Since the project also first came to council, there's been some improvements in the landscaping. The landscaping overall density throughout the site has increased. There's an additional 18 trees throughout the project. In addition to the added trees, there's been a number of trees that have been upgraded from 24-inch to 36-inch and some all the way up to 48-inch. And a lot of those improvements were focused along Bear Hollow Drive and North Mather to provide additional screening for the public right-of-way. This was the elevation that was initially brought in April of 2022. And this is the most recent elevations that were brought in January of 2023. Shown here there is the most current elevations, and they've added windows to the second level of the building to provide a more office look for the building. They've added additional roof articulation with heights varying from 40 feet to 37 feet throughout all elevations. They've added additional siding, vertical siding, to all elevations, which is those dark panels there. And also they've added additional blue accent colors throughout the facade. Here is a final rendering with mature landscaping from Bear Hollow and North Mather. And here is a final rendering from Bear Hollow also with mature landscaping. And with that, I'll turn it over to Darcy to talk about the updated conditions of approval.
Thank you, Nick.
Good evening, Mayor Bedge, members of the council. Darcy Gillard with the Planning Department. We're going to walk through some of the additional conditions of approval that the applicant has agreed to. Some of these conditions of approval were presented to the council in December, on the December 5th meeting of last year. The remaining conditions, which are on this slide right here, were presented at the last meeting of January 17th. So the applicant has agreed to these various conditions on the screen, which include limiting the truck movements in and out of the site, an additional sound wall installed at the end of Dabina Court, and the applicant would pay his fair share of that contribution. Conditions that would be related to assurance of incorporating skylights as well as a roof that can carry the weight load of solar panels. Short and long-term bicycle parking. So long-term bicycle parking would be something that would be internal to the building. We no longer encourage the use of external bike lockers just due to the fact that they attract homeless. The incorporation of EV charging infrastructure on the site, as well as should a portion of the building be utilized for refrigerated trucks or needing that, then the loading docks would have specific electric plugs installed to minimize idling. And with that, I will turn it over to Albert to go over a few of the additional conditions.
Good evening, Mayor Budge and members of the council. Albert Stricker with the Public Works Department. Adding to the conditions that Darcy summarized, in addition, there would be non-passenger and commercial vehicles would be required to utilize North Mather for ingress and egress. And from there, they would have to proceed to Zinfandel or Mather. Non-passenger and commercial vehicles will not be permitted to use Bear Hollow, north of the project site, Air Park Drive, Spoto Drive, Baroque Drive, or other residential neighborhood roads. And right turn only signage will be added to the truck exits onto Bear Hollow, directing them to North Mather. In addition, the project will be required to install improvements on Bear Hollow Drive at 3 intersections, those being Avernotte, Robila, and Air Park. Those are schematics of what those improvements may look like. And a similar treatment would also be installed at the intersection of Air Park and Bear Hollow.
Additionally, as outlined in your staff report, there's been some additional requests from the community in terms of conditions of approval on the project. I'm not going to walk through each one of these individually. We did outline that in your staff report. But on the screen before, you'll see 7 different requests. Some of them, 1 and 2, you would group together. 3 and 4 are more geared towards lighting. A lot of these conditions are above and beyond what the city is permitted to impose as conditions of approval on a design review. That doesn't mean that the council could not request that of the applicant, and he could agree to them voluntarily. Additionally, there's no nexus to require some of these conditions of approval as well, and they pose some long-term impacts to public and private property, as well as long-term funding sources for that. Wrapping up, I won't go into further detail of CEQA. I think you just heard from Tim Kremen on the CEQA findings in terms of being exempt. And with that, for council action this evening, you have a few options. You could potentially close the public hearing. A motion could be to provide staff with direction to prepare findings and a resolution of approval and conditions of approval on the Logistics Center major design review, and direct staff to come back at the March 20th meeting. Alternatively, the council could direct staff to provide findings and a resolution for denial and come back at the March 20th city council meeting. With that, that concludes staff's presentation for this evening.
Thank you, Darcy and Nick. Does council have any questions of staff?
I'll withhold my questions until after I hear public comment.
David?
Yeah, a clarification on the site plan, views from Bear Hollow. There was a wall proposed the last time we sort of discussed this in detail. I'm wondering, how far does that extend? I think the overhead view might be the most helpful. So the idea was, if you're driving on Bear Hollow, you won't be able to see trucks at this site. So is the wall accommodating that need?
Yes, based upon the renderings and the information we've received in the project plans, that wall will shield in conjunction with the additional landscaping that has been provided in the area.
Sort of all positions along Bear Hollow, you won't be able to see truck storage.
Correct.
So that's the one that David initially asked about, is the top circle.
Correct, the top circle.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, it'll need to extend beyond just that topmost yellow circle. It needs to wrap around that parking there on the left of that circle.
I believe one of the renderings that we did receive from the applicant at the last meeting that was presented indicated it was wrapping around, and I'm seeing the applicant shake his head that wall will wrap around.
Okay, I think that's the only clarification I have.
Okay, anybody else? All right, then we'll go to public comment. Stacy?
We'll start with those that are in the council chambers, and then I will transition to Zoom. We'll start with Ivory Rubin. Following Ivory will be Eric Weiniger. Following Eric will be James Garcia, Jennifer Garcia, and Greg Meilenberg. You'll each have up to 3 minutes to speak.
Welcome, Ivory.
Thank you. Mayor Budge, members of the City Council and staff, my name is Ivory Rubin. I am a 15-year resident of Stone Creek. The first 3 words of the U.S. Constitution, the definitive document of governance in this country, are the 3 most important words uttered in our republic. We the people. These words are the pathway from an unresponsive governing hierarchy to a system of self-governance through the responsiveness of our elected officials. Those words provide clarity for our elected officials to take into account in your decision-making with respect to the care, safety, and welfare of all constituents you represent. It is our request that the right to a safe home and neighborhood, the sacred spaces for our families and us, the places that most of us have invested the majority of our net worth, both financially and emotionally, will define the outcome of your decision. As constituents, we believe the process and facts are essential to a responsive system of governance. So far, process is dominated by means of legal terminologies that circle around subtle meanings of words that were produced a generation ago. And the facts have suffered in this discourse. To us, the facts precede process. There are other fundamental facts and truths related to the proposed project. One, we do not want to become a residential area like the Inland Empire of Southern California. We do not want Rancho Cordova to revert to past reputations, suffering the disdain of communities around us. Since the city was founded in 2003, we have seen the improvements made to this community, and we are proud to live here. Do not change the upward course of our development by introducing features that do not fit into our community and puts our residents at risk. With that, we will present tonight a variety of facts that we know about our home which is the city of Rancho Cordova, and likely the impacts imposing these large warehouses adjacent to our residential areas, including but not limited to air quality, design guidelines, environmental noise, traffic, and our personal health. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivory. Next. Eric?
My name is Eric Weiniger. Good evening to everyone. Air quality is one of our most important matters. Of course, it's because it's what we breathe, but also because the air we breathe is a common resource that we cannot control individually. And that is the reason there are air quality regulations, a common resource, air quality, that must be managed by a larger entity that represents us all. Just a brief thing about air quality science. Key terms: sources are pollution creators. Receptors are you and me and anything that has lungs. Meteorology is the wind. And pollution, gases and particles. Here we will talk mostly about particles, small particles. We have large particles, dust, that's called PM10, that doesn't do much more than clog our nose. And we have small particles, PM2.5, ones that penetrate our lungs and can go into our blood, even up to our brain. We focus on one of the worst small particles, diesel particulate matter. That comes from diesel trucks and cars. Diesel particulate matter consists of hundreds of individual chemicals, many of which are toxic air contaminants, all those chemicals you learn to hate in Chemistry 101. What can diesel particulate do? The health effects can vary by the type of receptor, with maladies ranging from the bad to the really bad. In our community, we have estimated, using a California air quality model, that with the imposition of a full build-out of the large warehouses that have been proposed, we will be subjected to an increase of diesel particulate matter exposure by 300%. The cancer risk will skyrocket above the accepted risk thresholds by the local air quality management district by a possible factor of 5. This will affect the high proportion of sensitive populations that exist in the community, as shown in the slide. Speaking of sensitive populations, there's the Navigator School nearby. The Logistics Center would be located closer than the recommended 1,000 feet and will be downwind of the approximate 100 trucks per day that come in and out. This windrose diagram shows how the dominant winds are coming from the southerly direction towards the school and towards the neighborhood. There's a lot of science behind all of this, including one specific to the Bold Beauty building that you see. Has the applicant done any analysis of air quality? Not that I know of. Why? They are relying on a 20-plus-year-old projection that do not even mention the highest risk pollutant, diesel particulate matter. So we should not trust anything that document says. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next. Welcome, James.
City Council and City staff, I would like to point out once again that the development agreement that was adopted by the County of Sacramento and Elliott Homes, Inc., a corporation of the state of Arizona, is no longer valid. The county codes regarding development agreements state they follow Government Code Sections 65864 through 65869.5. Both Sacramento County and Elliott Homes agreed to the terms set forth by those codes, including a newly incorporated city or newly annexed area comprises territory that was formerly unincorporated. Any development agreement into by the county prior to the effective date of incorporation or annexation shall remain valid for the duration of the agreement or 8 years from the effective date of the incorporation or annexation, whichever is earlier. The holder of the development agreement and the city may agree that the development agreement shall remain valid for more than 8 years, provided that the longer period shall not exceed 15 years from the effective date of the incorporation or annexation. The development agreement went into effect June 28, 2003, just 3 days prior to the effective date of incorporation for Rancho Cordova. Using the government code, Rancho Cordova was bound to continue the development agreement for 8 years, or July 1st, 2011. The city and the developer had a right to extend the 8-year term for a maximum of 15 years, or July 1st, 2018. The development agreement legal terms have long passed the 15 years afforded by the maximum extension allowed by law for an inherited development agreement. Even the LAFCO Resolution 1243 from May 22nd, 2002 set forth standards that the county and the potential new city of Rancho Cordova, vote wasn't held yet, were to follow. They required that any documentation they were supposed to provide the effective date of incorporation shall remain valid and enforceable between the applicant and the new city of Rancho Cordova, subject to government code sections 65865.3, subdivisions A and B. Again, it is stating that the time is now to correct the improper handling of this development agreement, as has been stated by staff in the past. Many things were lost in transit, yet here we are now suffering from not following the law. Do what is right in an illegal development agreement. The city doesn't have the authority to override any state law. The city can't pick and choose which laws to follow, including these. The DA is expired. And if you want to see, this is actually the development agreement. Elliott is an Arizona company, not a California one, for tax purposes. So they're breaking it.
Thank you, James.
Hi, city staff and council. The design guidelines that must be met for the logistics center
Tell us
project.
your name, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Jennifer Garcia. You
Thanks,
usually hear from me on Zoom. The design guidelines that must be met for the logistics center project must follow the Z-SPA and the county code from 1999. The Sacramento County Code defines what the purpose of the MP Industrial Office Park Land Use Zone was intended to provide a park-like, nuisance-free environment. How can a single large warehouse be considered park-like? A park-like environment consists of several small structures, open courtyards, or plazas. The Z-SPA further clarifies to establish commercial uses that are designed for convenient pedestrian access, are constructed of quality materials, and enhance the visual character of the community. Create neighborhoods that dominate pedestrian circulation. Development within the village's Zinfandel plan area will reflect a high level of design and community cohesiveness. Project goals foster a sense of community and a neighborhood identity within individual neighborhoods while maintaining unity and a cohesive design image. The Z-SPA also shares a conceptual village core area representing what was envisioned for the business professional zone area upon which the logistics center would be built, and is shown a series of smaller buildings rather than a single large-scale warehouse. The Z-SPA once again states buildings should be sited such that they complement adjacent buildings and landscape. New structures should not clash with existing structures and sites. Where non-residential uses are sited in close proximity to a residential area, Scale and character of new buildings should always relate to the adjacent residential neighborhood. Building form, the bulk of the building massing generally should be minimized, especially where residential character predominates. Buildings should maintain a scale comparable with residential neighborhoods. Building form should avoid proportional long flat surfaces. Building elevation must be attractive on all four sides. Just say no. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Rancho Cordova City Council. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Budge.
And you are?
Just a moment. Council members, I am Gregory Meilenberg, Lieutenant Colonel, retired, U.S. Army, and a Stowe Creek resident. I'm also a 100% disabled veteran who has been exposed to burn pit smoke and other hazardous material. I proudly and humbly wear this uniform to represent for the U.S. Constitution, we the people, and as my neighbor Ivory mentioned. I would like to wrap up regarding the Logis Center proposed project and how this decision would influence approvals of 1.6 million square feet of tall distribution warehouses next to Stone Creek residential homes, Navigator Elementary School, Spato Park, Hawthorne Senior Living, and Goddard School. We provided four key messages: health, air quality, and wind. It's factually documented that diesel engine exhaust particulate matter 2.5 causes 70% of cancer in the state of California. Sensitive receptors are children, elderly, and asthmatics. The children of Navigator School are at risk due to proximity and being directly downwind from the truck exhaust diesel particulate matter. We have presented factual info that supports further assessment and evaluation of air quality impacts to protect the health of Rancho Cordova residents. Number two, Z-Spa Development Agreement. We have presented our factual and legal-based view that the Elliott and City of Rancho Cordova warehouse development is procedurally compromised and legally no longer valid. Number three, Z-Spa Design Guidelines. CoStar lists Logis Center as Class B, not A. It lacks lead architectural engineering, and construction quality remains in question. Example, Reno. We recognize the difficulty of enforcing these provisions unless they are specifically required. Number four, home value and retention of nest egg investment. Based on our research and local real estate agent presentation to this council earlier, we believe the value will decline with warehouses built next to our homes. From our factual research and legal perspective, approval of the Logis Center proposed project will set up a chain of decisions leading to approvals of other large distribution warehouses with negative issues multiplied significantly. In closing, we recognize you have a tough decision before you. Our hope is that you have the voice of the people, have illustrated the basis for you to value and reflect our concerns in the final caucus deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Gregory. Next.
Next speaker is Marilyn Metzger. Following Marilyn will be Diego Hernandez, Daniel Garcia, Arthur Kuhn, and Robert Collins. I'm sorry, Robert's not going to speak, so it will be Selena Wong.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Metzger, and I am speaking today on environmental noise. This is what we hear from our homes. Beep, beep, beep. Environmental noise is a well-known risk factor impacting sleep-wake behavior and sleep quality. Many studies show that environmental noise is the most annoying environmental factor. By definition, these studies are scientific, systematic, data-driven, of the distribution, meaning the frequency and patterns of the noise, determinants, the causes and risk factors of health-related states and events, not just diseases, in specified populations, neighborhood, school, city, state, global, Noise modifies physiologic and mental functions. Reactions to nighttime noises cause disruptions of sleep structure, provoking what is called vegetative arousals, which is being awake but not being consciously awake. But that also raises blood pressure, heart rate, stress hormone levels, which all damage blood vessels and increase arterial hypertension. Other potential increased risks are diabetes, obesity, heart disease, inflammatory conditions, symptoms of ADHD, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's. Effects of poor sleep include reduced cognitive performance, fatigue, insomnia, psychosomatic symptoms, and possibly increased medication usage because it can get to the point of dependence. Vegetative arousals or normal waking are more likely to occur with a single noise event of intermittent noise. What we hear at 4 o'clock in the morning. Laboratory and field studies show that people do not acclimate to unpredictable intermittent noise. Therefore, nighttime sound levels should be much lower than daytime because of the many significant consequences of persistent noise exposure. These facts stress why it's important to hold hard and fast to noise mitigation strategies for public health. The residents of Stone Creek are going on record tonight saying the city of Rancho Cordova is disregarding our concerns about the long-term impact of warehouses, noise pollution being one element. We have little confidence in the city mitigating current issues or addressing future noise levels or violations. Our physical, mental, and emotional health, quality of life, work performance, and personal relationships will suffer from a permanent lack of refreshing and uninterrupted sleep. And don't forget the impact of day sleepers. Often those are medical workers, law enforcement, or fire department employees. If nights are rough, days will be impossible. Elliott Homes,
Your time is up.
Dermody, AT Industrial, and City of Rancho Cordova, your resistance to prioritize data-driven risk factors and comprehensive science in multiple areas is evident. Blaming developer agreements instead of looking at the facts. The addition of any warehouse will result in life, relational, social, mental, and physical health issues. The future developer, executives, city leadership, and council members may have to pay for your decision on this matter in the future when our cumulative health effects begin to manifest in young and old.
Good evening, council members, Mayor Budge. My name is Diego Hernandez. I am a third-generation member of the Laborers Union. I've worked as a laborer for 15 years now, and I joined it through their apprenticeship program. Local 185 represents over 2,300 hardworking men and women in Sacramento County, including members from Rancho Cordova. Some of them are here with me tonight. We're all wearing our La Una orange, and we're here in support of the Logistics Center at Rancho Cordova project. Projects like this will bring much-needed local jobs with a livable wage and benefits. Benefits that will give an opportunity to some of my brothers and sisters to a retiree pension, health insurance for the workers and their families. Most of us have long commutes to work, including myself. We travel, it's not uncommon to travel multiple hours to and from work to surrounding cities. That has taken a toll on my health, has taken a toll with my family, being away from them so long. Projects close to home will give some of my brothers and sisters the opportunity to spend more quality time with their families and to support the local economy. The developer, Dormady Properties, has been a proven partner to the Laborers Union and to communities like this throughout Northern California. We value our relationships with them, and we believe that this project will bring opportunities to members of this community to a construction career and long-term jobs well after the construction is over in the facility. So once again, we ask that you support and move forward with the Logistics Center project at Rancho Cordova. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next will be Daniel Garcia. Following Daniel will be Selena Wong, and then Valerie Knipschild.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Daniel Garcia, and I am a member of the Laborers International Union of Northern America. I am here this evening in support of the Bear Hollow Drive Logistics Project. With the population rising and newly developed homes being built, we need long-term job opportunities within our community. Thanks to projects like this, my brothers and sisters will be able to work close to home and provide their families with a decent living. This allows us to balance home and work more effectively by taking advantage of the time and spending it with our families instead of having to commute. These are just a few of my brothers that depend on these opportunities. I have to commute 2 to 3 hours a day to go to work. This is all due to the shortage of job opportunities within our community. I will never be able to make up for the lost time spent on the road away from my family and loved ones, but it's never too late to make changes if the opportunities become available. You all have the ability to vote and help others work close to home, and I have to commute. We want to be able to make it to our children's after-school sports activities and support them as they grow up. I strongly encourage you all to please take into consideration what was mentioned here today and approve this project. I thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, Daniel. Next.
Selena?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have public comment going on, please. Selena?
Thank you. Mayor Budge and members of City Council, I'm Selena Wong. My husband and I are residents of Stone Creek and healthcare professionals. I'm sharing some additional information about our concerns on the impacts of health with the logistics center and other warehouse projects. Fact, lung cancer is a leading cause of cancer death across the world. There is also concern for the rate of lung cancer in people who've never smoked due to exposure to environmental toxins that include diesel exhaust. That which is associated with 70% cancer risk for Californians, and people living within a half mile of trucking operations have a higher rate of asthma and heart attacks than other residents. At my first meeting here at City Council, you were very proud to have been a statewide leader in banning flavored tobacco products, reducing the probability of children and teens from using these products due to related health risks. While this is an admirable position for City Council to have taken despite the impact to local retailers, I would like to understand how adding diesel exhaust into this community by seeking this type of business does not rise to the same level of concern for the health of our children, especially as exposure to diesel exhaust is not a choice compared to the use of tobacco products. Fact, while people with cancer can go into remission, there's no cure for cancer. Design cannot mitigate cancer. The 5-year lung cancer survival rate is less than 20%. More than half the people with lung cancer die within 1 year of being diagnosed, including my brother-in-law in 2021. He was my age, a lifelong public servant as a military veteran, CHP officer, and U.S. Marshal. His years patrolling the highways of California exposed him to pollutants, including diesel exhaust, and lung cancer took him from his wife, his children, and his family. There's no mitigation for cancer. Fact, asthma and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease are potentially life-threatening conditions, especially if exposed to environmental triggers. Both can be managed and controlled, but there is no cure for asthma or COPD. People lose lung function over time and have an increased risk for infections, many of which are antibiotic resistant. Long-term side effects of medications include growth delays and higher risk for learning disabilities for those children. Both conditions are associated with a higher risk of cardiovascular disease. Most of the veterans that I used to work with at the VA have COPD. Eventually, if you live long enough with COPD, you become tethered to oxygen, which can isolate you from family and friends. Finally, since the voice of the children cannot be here
Your time is
in
up.
front of you, let me share my personal experience, age 5. I lived near Campbell Soup Factory and Distribution Center. My mother walking me to school every day had a death grip on my hands to make sure I didn't dart out in front of the semi-trucks because the other kids were darting out, gesturing for the trucks to blow their air horns. I shudder with this memory. I will always remember the smell of Campbell soup and diesel exhaust. Thank you.
Thank you, Selena. Next.
Next speaker is Valerie.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ali Jafari. I'm pleased to be here and talk to you guys. And this is my first time. And I'm not preparing anything written. It's just very informal talking. But I just want to talk to you about my feeling about this project. First of all, when I get this flyer, I found out the safety issue is going to be in danger in that area. Traffic is getting very bad. Pollution, which is air and noise, and also the vibration and shaking from the street. And we're not going to have any more safety issue for that reason. And also I found out Rancho Cordova is going to be a kind of residential area, not industrial city. Industrial city should be somewhere else, not in Rancho Cordova. I like to see Rancho Cordova as a technology city, like a no-hurt vehicle in the Bay Area. And as a residential, nice residential, and very safety place for our kids. Because I'm partially a teacher, I'm full-time maintenance, I see here a lot of area and a lot of kids. And especially in that area, we have a lot of kids and new family, and with this kind of project, all the kids are going to be in danger, and they are not going to be any safe to going to school and play in that area. I'm going to use this opportunity, and I'm going to say thank you to Rancho Cordova City because of developing police department, fire department, and cleaning the street, especially before the raining and all the leaves. I really like that, and I don't see anywhere in the Sacramento area to be doing like that. It's really, I really personally appreciate for those people. And I just want to add another thing. When I came to Rancho Cordova 2006, the area it was so quiet and very nice and very calm, and I never see Zinfandel is going to be connected to Douglas Boulevard. When this is connected and there's a lot of traffic back and forth. And then by the time when Sprout came to Beer Hollow, and another traffic is causing all the residential in Harshway and that area to be dangerous, especially they make an island into a street and make the street narrow. And at the first day, they're going to have 4 accidents. And I don't know what I have to go and talk to who is going to take care of that, because those islands has to remove. It's going to be dangerous, especially during the dark, raining night is so dangerous. My time is up?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity to give me a talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Valerie? Yes, well, Persephone, can you turn on the overhead?
It goes upstate or up. Put it up there. See.
Other way.
Other way. Do we know if it's working? No, she said up. Sit down. Oh.
From here?
No problem.
No.
Things happen.
We always have a little fun with those projectors, so don't take it personally. It's, ever since we've been in City Hall, that use of that projector has been a little bit challenging.
Good evening. My name is Valerie Knipschild. I am from Stone Creek. I want to talk about traffic. Good evening, Mayor Budge, council persons, and staff. The purpose of this meeting, I conducted a survey on one warehouse traffic one day, resulting in an observation of 141 trucks. This equals 6 trucks per hour. Trip generation analysis provided by Katie Anderson and Associates Incorporated, dated January 28, 2020, stated that the warehouse would only have 98 trips per day. Based on the conditions of operation at 18 hours a day and 9 proposed total warehouses, there will be 47 trucks per hour through that intersection of Zinfandel and North Mather, going towards 50, or coming from 50. When I reported to the council member, I was told that that was moving day for the tenant. The truck traffic has been observed and heard by me on more than one day. The residents of Stone Creek would recommend making the intersection at Zinfandel and North Mather a roundabout. Per Caltrans, traffic calming resulting in reduced speeds, and they reduce greenhouse gases emissions by reducing vehicle idling time. The residents of Stone Creek would also recommend making North Mather a one-way going west to have the traffic, especially trucks, divert through Mather Boulevard to Highway 50. Goods movement. Sacramento Regional Transit District Board meeting on February 27, 2023 related to goods movement. Mayor Budge was present, and my observations were there were 4 key initiatives. One of them is goods movement. The goods movement initiative states trucks are a small component of the vehicle stream, but constitutes 23% of the greenhouse gas emissions and 50% of the noxious pollutants in the air. A goal of the initiative is to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions pursuant to state and federal rules regulations. While we commend the support of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, the initiative won't result in this until 2045. It is truly believed that this reduction in harm to our residents, then they support this increase. Then why support this increase of goods movement via diesel trucks in our neighborhoods? The next section is parking. We have seen a lot of parking on North Mather and surrounding streets, especially under the sign, no parking commercial vehicle sign. We recommend that any future design reviews to include and incorporate ample truck parking and turnaround space so it does not place it on the residents. Lastly, enforcements. Enforcements of these conditions of approval will be tough. Who will do it? As now, it's left up to the residents to enforce the calling of code enforcement as suggested by some council members. Is this fair? Is this why we reach retirement, is to help report out on all the code violations?
Your time is up.
Please support us in funding the future developments to provide enforcement of this applicable.
Thank you, Valerie.
I have a question for Valerie. I have a question. First of all, it doesn't sound like you're retired. It sounds like you're still working, collecting all that data, doing all these numbers, so
I'm a numbers person.
thank you for that. You said 6 trucks per hour, and you measured that over an
That was
18-hour
just-
day?
Yes, that was for that one particular day.
For that one particular day?
Yes.
But you, reviewed a camera, I think is what you
I have a
emailed
camera
me?
on my home that points into the court because we've had break-ins in our cars.
Okay.
And it happens to see into the intersection that happens to see into Bold and Beauty brand warehouse.
And then your projection was if all the warehouses that were proposed were built, that would be 47 trucks an hour,
Yes,
rather than just the 6 you observed?
right.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify those, but thank you for doing that work. And when this is passed, you could be like a biology field scientist, and sit there and review the video and count how many times the bird went to the nest or something.
Yeah.
That was
exactly.
really cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Troy Fennell. Following Troy will be Mitch Schumach. Following Mitch will be George Martinez, and then Brenda Gustin.
Welcome, Troy.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Troy Fennell, Stone Stone Creek resident since 2007. Once again, my fellow residents are standing before you to try to protect our health, quality of life, and the safety of our children, and to prevent the degradation of our neighborhood that occurs when logistical warehouses overtake and consume the family homes. As you have heard and have seen, we have found multiple regulations that we believe prove the agreement that Dermody is using to build the Bear Hollow Logistics Center is expired. What Dermody is claiming is that the agreement still stands and that there is nothing that can be done to prevent them from building the logistics center. Unfortunately, you are placed in the middle of a difficult situation. This struggle is all too familiar when local residents come together to resist the deep pockets of a large investment development group seeking to maximize their profit margins at the expense of the residents. Dermody has sent official notice that they will file a large lawsuit against our city if you do not approve their plans. What grieves me most is the fact that we as citizens of Rancho Cordova are faced with a dilemma. Either we spend millions of dollars of our tax revenue to stand and fight the promised lawsuit, or we roll over and sacrifice the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens of Rancho Cordova. While it's nice and easy and neat for the lawyers to say you're only allowed to consider the exterior benefits of the program, without looking at the inside of what's really happening in the warehouses and those long-term effects is absolutely inhumane. Yes, it will provide short-term jobs. Yes, it will provide an instant profit when they build the buildings. But unfortunately, it's the long-term effects of the residents and the citizens, because Dermody doesn't live here. A lot of the construction workers won't live here. It's the residents, our children, and future residents that will suffer the consequences of these long-term effects on the impacts of a warehouse logistics center. Perhaps, as the attorney brought out today, the time has expired for raising complaints. I wasn't here in 2004. Perhaps you know of a prophet who could tell me now that I need to complain about an adventure in 2040, because that would be the time that the decision made today will impact those unknown neighborhoods, those unknown children, and the unknown consequences of a building plan that is not even being considered in design. From the moment we found out that more logistical warehouses were being built, we started to raise our voices. It does not make any common sense to expect us to have raised concerns in 2004 before our residences were even born or built. I moved into a brand new home in 2007.
Your time is up.
Thank you. Please be reasonable in our expectations.
Thank you, Troy. The next speaker is George Martinez. George, if you'll come forward.
George? Yeah, set that one aside in case he's in the other room.
Brenda Gustin.
Hello again. I respectfully request that the council continues to respond to the citizens of Rancho Cordova, specifically the Stone Creek residents, who are working diligently to uncover gaps in the original intent of the land development project, now labeled the Logistics Center. I listened last meeting to an esteemed representative about how this center will bring employment to the area. While providing employment is important, and heard tonight, I do not agree that residents' needs should be negated by new development and employment. What they do require is a planning department and active planning commission able to deliver up-to-date and accurate information to the city council members for review, which I do see happening, and I appreciate it. From what I understand, the standards of the warehouse industry have drastically changed since this area was originally zoned and this development agreement was written. Since the pandemic, the way businesses interact in society has also changed, so the owners do not wish to honor the original intent of a business and professional development. Understood. But as described by Jennifer Garcia tonight, business and professional is not 100% commercial warehouse. And when zoning took place, buildings were built at 2, maybe 3 stories high, not 5, which drastically increases negative effects to the air quality from vehicular traffic. A thorough assessment of health impacts from the increased traffic not originally planned for a business and professional development are completely different than a 24/7 operation of warehouse distribution centers. When this proposed development design was brought before the planning department, it would have served the Rancho Cordova community much better had the now residents of Stone Creek been treated respectfully by the developer. I realize developer thinks they've done so, although I've witnessed a difference of an opinion here from the residents. This has not occurred, and the developer outright refused to modify requests by the city council, such as hours of operation. I was glad to see tonight that they are prohibiting truck movement between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., although I'm confused that I heard testimony tonight that trucks are moving at 4 a.m. I invite you to just please continue to listen to the multitude of details being provided by all parties before you consider final design approval on this project. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Brenda. Next.
The speaker before Brenda, was that Mitch or Troy?
No, Troy.
Troy, thank you. Okay.
It's George Martinez that we didn't get.
Thank you. And Mitch. Mitch Schwenk.
Hello, City Council and City staff. I'm an extreme introvert, so this is very hard for me. I'm a Stone Creek resident. I have asthma, and you can probably hear it in my voice. I already struggle, have difficulty in breathing. I'm here to implore you to get an air quality review. The one that's 20 years old doesn't even address the diesel fumes. I also have a family history of non-smokers' cancer, so this is also going to severely affect me. And I know that the builders, the contractors, electricians would love to build a building. I'm sure we can find a better building, maybe a multi-use place where you can have microbrewery. I don't know, don't care, just not warehouses with bunch of trucks. Also, this building is not going to be built to LEED certification, and the builder said, or Dermody said they'll try to get LEED certification, but if they're not building to that certification, why bother trying? My husband also works nights occasionally at a hospital. He is a doctor of pharmacology. And would these trucks banging around affect us? We're just past the school. So will he hear this beeping stuff in the daytime? It could potentially affect patient care. It could also put his doctoral license at risk. So I have some questions. What improvements will be done to the streets that are going to be used? Bear Hollow is already not very good with numerous potholes. Will the truck movement and loading operations be able to be heard by the nearby school and residents? I'm right on the border, within 1,000 feet, I think, or 1,200 feet of this proposal. Will it be heard by us? And who will pay for our home values dropping? Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mitch. Next.
Did George Martinez come back into the council chambers? No. All right, Benny Glover? No Benny Glover. Okay, we'll allow Benny the opportunity to come to the council chambers, and I'll check back. Sergio Diaz?
Hello, Sergio.
I'm Benny.
Well, come on in.
Thank you, Benny.
Welcome, Betty.
Thank you. I've been a member of Rancho Cordova for about 6 years. We love our community. We love our neighbors. It's been a place we've been really proud of. I'm not as familiar, I'm not a scientist or anything, but what I'm concerned about is what's going to happen to our community that we've loved. And I'm wondering if you can tell me of any place, a community like we've had in Rancho Cordova, that has prospered after you put in all these warehouses and all these trucks driving in. Can you give me an example? I think the developer, the speaker that was here representing this project, he was saying, go and look at the senior living that they had built in Roseville, and we would see a real quality project. And I did go there, and I was really impressed. But I got to thinking about that. That was really misleading. That is nothing like having warehouses and semis with diesel fumes spewing out in our community. So I'm hoping that you will take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinny.
Gio? Sergio Diaz?
Gio?
Following Sergio will be Yolanda, and then Cal, and Helen Whalen Bashaw.
Good evening, esteemed council members, Honorable Mayor. I want to clarify that I don't live in Stone Creek. I have never lived in Stone Creek, so I'm here to speak on the issues I've heard tonight. I had something written, but the neighbors who do live in Stone Creek have spoken to this issue and their concerns in an eloquent way, and much more than I could ever do. So I'd just like to be brief and point out respond to some of the comments that were made. The city attorney mentioned that this project has been affirmed, or this agreement has been affirmed and reaffirmed a number of times. And he referenced statute of limitations. I don't know, I wasn't part of that, but I will tell you on this project and other projects that the city foresees problems under California Code of Regulations 15270. It says, CEQA does not apply to projects which a public agency rejects or disapproves. What that means is this section is intended to allow an initial screening of projects on the merits for quick disapprovals prior to the initiation of CEQA process, where the agency, that is you, determines that a project cannot be approved. Let me say it differently, because I think the court said it in a much better way. In Maine San Gabriel Basin Water Master versus San Gabriel State Water Resources Control Board, 1993, 12 Calap 4th, 1371, and I'm sure the city council, the city attorney could provide this to you. Our state legislators, and I'm quoting, concluded that public agencies, that would be you, should not be forced to commit their resources to the costly and time-consuming environmental review process for proposed private development projects slated for rejection, whatever the reason for agency disapproval. This court does not sit in judgment of the legislature's wisdom in balancing such competing public policies. And they cite a case, it's a Supreme Court case known as Napa Valley, Napa Valley Wine Train versus Public Utilities Commission. The next point I'd like to make is that in considering the lawsuits that have been intimated by the developer, I think there's 3 or 4 letters that have been written by their counsel. I ask you to kindly consider, and I brought the book so that you know I'm not
Your
making it
time
up.
is up.
It's a cause of action known as inverse condemnation, which would give these residents an opportunity to sue for the health detriment that might result for the approval of this project.
Thank you, Sergio.
Thank you so much.
Yolanda? You called Yolanda?
Yolanda Ku?
Yolanda? Okay, let's park that one a
We'll
minute.
move to the next one. Cal. Following Cal will be Helen Whalen Bashaw. Following Helen will be Amir. Following Amir will be Jenna and George.
Glad to meet all of you. I can actually see your names now when I get this close, but I don't know who you are. You should
Thank
have
you,
something
Cal.
light up around you. Anyway, Adam, this is a done deal, right? No? Well, let me tell you a little story. In 1958, I went to high school on Broadway and Freeport Boulevard, Christian Brothers High School. We had the truck traffic coming down. This was before the freeway was built. We had the truck traffic coming down Broadway. We couldn't sit on half the side of the school. We had to sit on the farthest away from Broadway. The Christian Brothers Gales, we moved from there and we moved to, we changed the name of the school. They changed the name of the school to the Bishop, let's see. Well,
Minot.
anyway.
Bishop Minot.
No. Well, it was changed. But I'm a little nervous now, but I'm going to tell you. Adam, that's you. 2,793 trucks, trips per day. 2,793 trucks, trips per day. Mika, 2,793 trucks. Linda, 2,973 trucks, trips a day. Is that going and coming or round trip? I don't know. But I want to tell you, we didn't have nearly that many at Christian Brothers High School, and we couldn't even use half the school. These trucks are noisy, they pollute. I have asthma, I don't follow a truck. If I'm riding a motorcycle, don't follow them. Don't even get behind them on the freeway. But anyway, I want to let you know you got 2,793 trips per day. Can you line up that many? How many miles is that? 50 miles of trucks going by here. You guys are crazy. Let this slip. Other cities have stopped this thing. They have tried, they've pushed their developments, I'm sure in other cities have been denied, but you guys didn't deny it. Okay, last thing, California noise law. All Californians are entitled to a peaceful and quiet environment without the intrusion of noise which may be hazardous to their health and welfare. Diesel fume hurts. Diesel fume is bad. 2,793 trucks. Line them up. Line them up. Line them up. How far? Can you guys walk that far? Can you ride that far on a bicycle? What are you guys going to do with all those trucks? They're all backing up at 6 o'clock. It's
Your
going to be
time is up.
beep, 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 beep. Thank you.
Thank you, Cal. Did we get Yolanda?
Let me, before you start, Helen, Yolanda Ku, are you back in the council chambers? And what about George Martinez? No, okay, Helen.
Hi, everybody. I'm Helen Bashaw. I do not live in the area of this build, but I have contributed financially to their attorneys. So with that said, I want to talk about design guidelines. Think about the Aries Rock in Australia. This is what I see the Okay, no, gotta get Keep going. Up, 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 right there. That's what that building looks like, in my opinion. But you're gonna have houses around it. That's an eyesore, so is that building. What I want to talk about, I remember Alan made a comment that we're kind of like a day late, dollar short. We should have done things earlier. My complaint is, and all along I've been mentioning, ever since the protected bicycle lanes I started fighting in 2016, I put the blame on the city of Rancho Cordova. You have a planning department, they're not doing their job. Why is it the citizens come up after a lot of these projects and we keep talking about, I keep talking about training. It's obvious there's a problem with the city that your people are not properly trained. To allow this stuff to come forward like this, well, they should have picked up the fact that James Garcia's mentioned it was only 15 years that you could keep this project going. Well, you guys are a day late and a dollar short. It should have been killed several years ago. We wouldn't be here. But it appears to me the city of Rancho Cordova caves into the builders. You don't understand some of the rules, and that's when I keep telling everybody, what about the Measure R money? Why don't we invest some of that money into training the staff in Rancho Cordova so that we don't have these problems? You want to, the builder wants this build, but long-term effects, it's going to do several things. It's going to contribute to health problems. It depreciates the value of these homes. It creates hazards for the children. My question to you is, why doesn't this build take place in Aerojet? Straight on ramp to Highway 50, pretty much. And the other issue is, it would be built before the houses come in. To build a community and bring in houses and then later bring in these monstrosities that don't conform to the rules and regulations that were established at the time that the Rancho Cordova came in and allow the builder to continue to change our rules, that's absurd. You're going to get a lawsuit either way. Either the citizens are going to sue the city or the builder's going to sue the city. But Rancho Cordova, it's your problem. You haven't done your due diligence to ensure all the rules and regulations are followed. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Next speaker is Amir Mohammadal.
Welcome, Amir.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Amir, and I've lived in Rancho Cordova for 37 years. And since 2008, I've been in Stone Creek. And all my friends from Bay Area call me Rancho Cordova Amir because they know I love this city. And it's been good up to now. I'm afraid it's going to change after you guys approve this project. I'm afraid that my mother, who is 86 years old, and she's got dementia, and she's perfectly healthy, but me, I'm only 63, and I decided to retire because I have to take care of my mom. And I'm afraid if I have diabetes, high blood pressure, and hypertension, will cause me die before my mother does. So who is going to take care of her? So I ask you, please stop these projects. We don't need all this pollution. We don't need all this air pollution, noise pollution. Please keep us healthy. We need to live longer. They could move their warehouses someplace else where there is no people living. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Amir. Next.
Next is Jenna Contreras. Following Jenna will be George Condon.
Hi, I'm Jenna Contreras. I had no intention of speaking tonight. I really didn't think I would have to, but my husband and I moved to Rancho Cordova in 2011 with the intention of raising a family here. Sounded like a great idea. It's a great little community in Stone Creek. My parents followed us out here to Stone Creek so that their grandkids could walk to Grandma's house. And we live less than a mile away. Unfortunately, to get to Grandma's house, we have to cross Zinfandel, which isn't gonna be as safe anymore. I have 2 kids, they're 4 and 5. They go to Navigator Elementary. They play soccer at Stone Creek Park. My son plays T-ball at the RCLL, where my husband coaches. And our house backs up to both Zinfandel and North Mather. So you're literally talking about what's getting built in their backyard. We invested a lot into our home so that our kids could enjoy their childhood. We just put in a pool for them. So that was a great idea. We don't know what kind of air is gonna fall into the backyard, what's gonna fall off a truck or end up in the pool. But I wish you would think about the kids when you build things literally in the parks where they play, down the street from the schools that they go to. And it was my understanding that when Rancho Cordova became a city, it was because the citizens felt ignored, neglected, especially in the crime department. That's, I thought, why Rancho Cordova fights so that our police officers wear a Rancho Cordova badge, not just Sac County. But I ask you guys to protect our kids. That's it. But I did have a picture to show. I don't know where to put it. They said it would go somewhere.
Is it on your phone?
Yeah. I would just ask that you think about them. Oops. Just have it. Technology makes everything easier. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jenna. Next.
Next is George Condon. Following George will be Val Astle, and then following Val will be Arthur Kuhn.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is George Condon. I'm with Dermody Properties. I'm the project applicant. First, I'd like to thank staff for its summary of the changes we have made to the proposed project over the last 14 months. As staff indicated, we have agreed to additional measures to mitigate impacts. I think the angle of the drive aisle, which you all have seen before, leaving the truck court, the traffic calming measures that staff summarized this evening, and the restriction on truck activity between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Those 3 in particular will have the greatest impacts, mitigating effects on the surrounding community. I'm available to answer any questions later on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, George. And
Val?
Hello, council, and thank you for your time. I'm a 60-year resident of Rancho Cordova. I've seen a lot of change. The biggest change that we came to is that we wanted to be a community for the people. We now have turned that direction around. The people have bought homes. We have lived here. We have invested our money here. We have invested our time and our efforts to make this a better place. There is a place for this type of activity to occur. We are trying to redevelop a place called Aerojet. It's a perfect place for this opportunity. They still have to build a building, and they can do it there. It's a perfect place. It's already been industrialized. It's not going to impact homes and or businesses and or hospitals that are nearby. We already have traffic control issues. Have you stood on Zinfandel in the evening and listened to how many cars and trucks go up that? The noise from that is deafening. I live a mere block and a half away from it. I have to keep my windows closed at night because it's so loud. When we start adding trucks, who's going to make sure that they go down the right street? Nobody. Thank you for your time.
thank you, Val.
Good evening, members of the council, staff. I'm Art Kuhn. I represent the applicant Dermody. I'd like to talk about not so much the law, but although the law is intimately related to it, but fairness. And one of the most basic principles of fairness is the principle understood by every child that you don't change the rules in the middle of the game. Everyone can understand that. The development agreement statute embodies that fairness In recognition that development is a risky, lengthy, and expensive undertaking, it provides certainty. In exchange for the developer's investment and commitment to comprehensive planning for the public good, it provides assurance to the developer that it can proceed with a project in accordance with the clear rules of the game that existed at the time the development agreement went into effect. Those rules specifically are the land use regulations and policies that were in effect at that time. The law recognizes that without this guarantee of certainty, investments won't be made, resources will be wasted, comprehensive planning won't occur, and the cost to consumers of housing and other development goods will escalate. In this matter, the VOSPA developers made a substantial commitment to investment in planning and infrastructure, including CEQA review, built out the public facilities, financing plan infrastructure the city and its citizens now enjoy, and paid millions of dollars in development fees. In exchange, I think it's only fair that the developer receive the vested rights that it bargained for and relied on. Here, the right to develop the uses permitted by right and to the density and intensity of use allowed under the comprehensive planning rules that were established at the DA's inception. The 90-day statute of limitations under the government code also embodies fairness because it exists to provide certainty to cities and property owners that they can proceed based on decisions that are final and unchallenged. And the staff and the city attorney have pointed out all the decisions that have been made reaffirming the development agreement here. They've already covered CEQA, and they've covered the limitations on the design review process very well. In sum, fairness as well as the law demands that the city approve this project and reject the calls of the opponents of this project who want to change the rules in the middle of the game. The public agencies here made their best procedural and planning choices and commitments many years ago. No one ever timely challenged any of those choices. And they were substantially and in good faith relied upon through substantial investments in planning, infrastructure, construction, and development fees.
Your time is up.
The law protects that reliance, and I request that you act fairly and in accordance with the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Art.
This is not a game, this is real life.
So, anybody else?
I'd like to just make sure that Yolanda Koo and George Martinez have not walked into the council chambers. We did check our overflow room and they were not there. And they are not in the lobby.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna move to Zoom, if that's okay, Mayor Budge. We do have a few hands that are raised in Zoom, and we'll start with Lucy. Lucy, you will be unmuted and you'll have up to 3 minutes to speak. Following Lucy will be Maria Martin, and then telephone number 91680, and then Aaron Hansen. Following Aaron will be Pam. Lucy?
Welcome, Lucy.
Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Lucy Mastiel, and I am an educator in the community. I see some former students of mine who struggle to stay in Rancho Cordova due to minimal job opportunities in the area. It is also not lost upon me that some young individuals from this area may not go on to pursue a higher education or a college degree. It makes me happy to see a young adult who could have otherwise fallen through the cracks obtain the skills necessary to achieve a successful career. Through construction apprenticeship programs, many of my former students have been able to achieve a living wage, benefits, and pensions for themselves and for their families. This construction project will not only create temporary construction jobs for years while the project is being built, but it will also create a future placement for citizens of Rancho Cordova. For these reasons, I urge you to approve this project. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Lucy.
Next speaker is Maria Martin.
Maria?
Good evening. Hi. Good evening, City Council. My name is Maria Martin. I am a single Latina mother raising my children here in Rancho Cordova. After high school, there were not many jobs I could get that would pay for benefits for me and all my kids. I was able to go through the laborer's apprenticeship program and have been working as a laborer for 5 years with the local union. I am happy to say that I can now afford to support me and my 3 kids. While I was going through the apprenticeship, there were many different problems with everyone who was in the program with me. We all overcame things like me being a single mom, another girl was homeless, and there was one lady who had just gotten out of prison. We were all able to get a construction career once we graduated from that program. Having a stable job, union job that I did not have to spend 4 years in college for, has really helped me out. I would ask you all to support this project so that people like me can get a hand up and not a handout to support our kids working at a local construction site. My kids and I thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
The next speaker is telephone number 91680. I've unmuted you and you'll have up to 3 minutes to speak.
Welcome, Faiza.
Hi, everyone. This is Faiza Mughal in Lincoln Village, and I live on the opposite end of town, but I want to stand with the Stone Creek residents. I love my community, and when I say that I love Rancho Cordova, I mean the people. And some of you don't know me, but I show up a lot. People in front of you, the front of this room, know who I am. I show up a lot. Maybe I'm annoying, I don't know, but when I see something wrong, I feel like I have to say something. And what I'm watching unfold is a stark reminder of what has played out in Lincoln Village over and over again. In fact, just 3 years ago, a 15-building light industrial facility was approved by council, and it was going to be sandwiched between George Washington Carver School, high school, and a 145 families in an apartment complex right next door, and literally a stone's throw from the only open green space in my community, our neighborhood park. It was astounding. There are 3 schools in a half-mile radius of that location, and it was going to bring diesel trucks through the community. So I was very outraged, and I got no support from our city council members. The project was approved, but thank goodness the developer backed out for whatever reason. And now I see the same thing playing out with you guys. And it's appalling. I'm very appalled because I feel like they're industrializing residential communities, and that is not okay. I mean, what year are we in? It's 2023. We need to be moving in the opposite direction. A lot of you were paying attention when the city's legal counsel spoke earlier, and you heard it for yourselves. The time to act was 20 years ago. I want you to look to the front of the room right now and tell me who was sitting in those seats 20 years ago? Who was here 20 years ago? Because I wasn't. And if I were, I would have said something. But who was here and who did not act? Who did not speak up? Who did not act when the time came to act? Please remember that, because it's an ongoing theme in our community. Last week, I had the just pure chance, dropped in and watched the SAC RT board meeting. A presentation was given by SMUD and the Air Quality District. And they were discussing electric vehicles, electric vehicle charging stations. And then the question was brought up about hydrogen gas, and hydrogen production plants. And our representative that sits on the board of RT, our mayor, volunteered Rancho Cordova as a potential site for a hydrogen production facility. And I quote you from that meeting. It was said, "Not everyone has industrial space available, but we do." And that was not proposed by the presentation or anyone at RT. That was our member volunteering that.
Your
It was
time
not
is
being
up.
requested of us. Okay, so to watch out, you might have a hydrogen production plant coming to a neighborhood near you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Faiza.
The next speaker is Erin Hansen. Following Erin will be Pam and then Angelica.
Erin.
Hi, my name is Erin Hansen. I'm a resident of Stone Creek, a civil rights attorney and advocate. First, I want to acknowledge that this site that we're talking about in our city is part of the unceded ancestral homeland of the indigenous Nisenan people, stolen from them by violence and broken promises. So let's talk about this land, and let's talk about what you guys are doing. I just started to pay attention, and I'm frankly shocked. There's Attorney General guidance that requires warehousing projects to receive a project-specific EIR, and states clearly that warehousing is a project type of peculiar concern which must be assessed for impacts on sensitive receptors, schools, residences. So the central exemption, this presumption that you folks are depending on in this decision, is called into question. I will say that the Attorney General's office regularly issues comment letters to cities regarding warehousing projects and has joined successful litigation against cities which neglect project-specific EIRs related to greenhouse gas impacts. This project requires a project-specific assessment to study the impact on human health and local biodiversity from increased traffic, air pollution, habitat loss, and watershed pollution. The city has not performed any project-specific air quality or greenhouse gas assessments, as I'm sure you already know. And I will point you to the Attorney General's website, where there is a long list of letters that have been written about similar projects. I've also contacted the AG's office, and I've asked them to provide comment and review this project. As a former logistics employee, I can attest that facilities like this have a 24/7 impact with constant traffic, trucks waiting for a dock, noise pollution from idling engines and refrigerator trailers, light pollution from always open facilities and headlights, trucks backed up into the street, air pollution and traffic hazards. And this is not some wasteland that you're developing. The Mather Vernal Pools Wetlands Conservation Area on the other side of the airfield depends on undisturbed hardpan for its existence, and industrial development cracks that hardpan, leading to the loss of habitat that has already, 90% of this habitat has already been lost in California. Threatened, protected, or declining species on and near the project site itself include western meadowlark, western bluebird, American beaver. A family of 7 lives directly across the street from the site, 2 adults, 5 kids. Tricolored blackbird, ash-throated flycatcher, sandhill crane, Swainson's hawk, and white-tailed kite. The city has a ministerial duty to consider the impact of this development on human health and safety, as well as on the local ecosystems. Without a project-specific updated EIR, the city may be legally responsible. The city may be legally responsible for irreparable harm to biodiversity, air quality, water quality, and the health of our neighborhood. The city's attitude shows tremendous disrespect for our community's valid concerns and willful lack of care.
I have a question for Erin. Erin, did you send us comments under a different name?
Hold on, I just unmuted her.
Okay.
Erin, I just brought you back to respond to Mayor Budge.
Oh, yes. Erin Simonich is my bar license name, which I believe I used to submit comments. Erin Hansen is my married name. I always forget which name I use. I have too many. Thank you.
I get it. Thank you so much. Okay, next.
Pam, you've been unmuted.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. Hi, my name is Pamela Fuller. I am a lifelong resident of almost 60 years living in Rancho Cordova, with the exception of a 4-year window when I left to serve in the military. I returned to Rancho Cordova after my military service to raise my family because I love this community. I remember the goals behind us becoming a city were to have a voice in our future and no longer allow the city of Sacramento to make those decisions for our community. Prior to cityhood, businesses and residents suffered economically from the closure of Mather Air Force Base. After the economy improved and cityhood was granted, we have seen many improvements made throughout the city. These warehouse projects do not fit the vision our residents had or understood for our city. I do not recall being notified of the Bold Beauty warehouse. It popped up during COVID shutdowns while I worked from home and seldom went out. Now we are already being awoken by the noise of the trucks moving in and out of the warehouses, and those noises are being heard before 6 a.m. and as early as 4 a.m. I believe adding additional warehouses is going to be very destructive to our community, including our health. We are already seeing the trucks from this one warehouse not following laws that are supposed to mitigate their presence. I have submitted several letters and I've read the letters submitted to the city council and I have been attending the hearings. I'm quite frankly stunned tonight to hear the city's attorney's reasoning as to why they believe this project is exempt from CEQA. Basically, what I'm hearing is they are taking a long reach for a statute of limitations as justification to move forward. A loophole, as it were, but it sounds like a weak one, in my opinion, that invites a legal challenge. As voters, we have entrusted you to make decisions that follow the laws, and I would think that includes state and federal laws, despite a comment I heard to the contrary. We entrust you to make decisions that have a positive impact on our community. I want to add that while in the military, I drove large diesel vehicles. The smell of the exhaust from that time of my life is imprinted in my memory. As someone with asthma, I'm very frightened by these proposals and the impact they will have on our community. I ask you to please say no to this project, but if you do not say no, I stand with my neighbors and support legal action if that is what we have to do. I too have been contributing to our legal fund and will continue to do so. And I greatly appreciate the research my neighbors have been doing and providing to you to try to bring common sense to this decision. Thank you.
Next.
Next is Angelica. Angelica, you've been unmuted and you'll have up to 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, thank you, City Council members. Again, my name is Angelica. I was born and raised here in Rancho, Cordova, and we've grown and come a long way since I was a kid. And it actually wasn't that long ago that I can remember that most of the people that I know here from Rancho Cordova had to commute to downtown Sacramento for work and, our jobs and, going out and doing things. So as a member of this diverse community, and I'm sure with the construction of this project and many of my neighbors and community members will be able to work and live within their own community. And let's not forget, our city desperately needs these jobs and could use the tax revenue for the success and future of our economy. These temporary and permanent jobs in Rancho Cordova are a benefit to our schools, parks, and way of life. Just thank you for considering the approval of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelica. Next.
The next speaker is Davis. Following Davis will be Barbara.
Davis.
Can you guys hear?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay, fantastic. Good afternoon, council members, Mayor Budge. So it says, I just have some questions. My wife and I lived here for 6 years, going on 7 years, moved from Dallas, where when you have a house, you're not expected to have warehouses next to your house. I guess California is not that way anymore from when I used to live here in San Diego when I was born and raised. But anyways, I just have some questions. So the CEQA reviews were in 1988 and in 2002. Mayor Budge, you were elected to the first city council when the city was incorporated in 2003. So way before you were actually mayor, in which we are asking you, Mayor Budge, to do your part and be a part of this community like we are. And put a stop to this. And I live in Stone Creek. I'm a stone's throw away from where you're about to put down everything. I too am a union worker, and I too believe that union jobs are very, very good for community and stuff like that. But I do not believe that these union jobs that are going to be presented for the building of this project are going to last for much more than 6-8 months. So it's kind of like it's one of those things. It's like let's throw up in the air for the for union workers, unfortunately. But Mayor Budge, you were. This was before the CEQAs were before you were even brought in as a council member. So I'm just concerned about how you feel about that. The second thing I'm concerned with is all these people that are speaking, Vice Mayor David Sandler, and all the other council members. Where do you guys live? Do you live with us, or do you live away from us and have no consequences about the actions you are going to face, you're going to put us all to live in. Do you live in Folsom? Do you live in El Dorado Hills? Where do you all live? And when it comes to Rancho Cordova, we all leave Rancho Cordova to go have an entertaining time in Folsom, El Dorado Hills, downtown, because Rancho Cordova does not have a whole lot of entertainment. And unfortunately, what you guys are about to do to the area, you're not really making it a livable space anymore. All of the houses around my community are turning into rentals, and for a good reason. So I guess my question to you guys is what do you want to do for us? I mean, we elected you for the people. We, the people, elected you guys to do something for us. And it sounds like you're doing a whole lot for the better good of taxes and revenue versus the people. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Davis. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Barbara. Following Barbara will be Alicia Abbott.
Barbara.
Hi there, this is Barbara. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. First, I would like to thank all of our neighbors for the amazing research and all the due diligence that they have done to fight this atrocity. It's been absolutely amazing to hear everything that everyone's had to say. I only have one comment tonight. I know I've spoken before. And that comment simply is there is no developer in history that has ever been in it for the public's good or well-being. They are only in it for their own profit. So with respect to the developers' representatives, please don't insult our or the city council's intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Next speaker.
Alicia.
Hi there. My name's Alicia Abbott. I live in Rancho Cordova in Stone Creek, actually, since 2006. And I wasn't planning to get up and say anything. I've just been coming to support in opposition to these buildings being built in our neighborhood. But just very quickly, there are no benefits to the people that live here in this neighborhood. It will increase the noise, the traffic, safety of our children, safety of our neighborhood, and the pollution will be, even worse than it is currently. And so I just strongly ask you to consider the people that actually live here and live in the neighborhood. Who will this affect? And I'm a commuter. I commute long distances to go to work and come home. And we also work not traditional hours. So when I come home, they were talking about commuting and how they don't want to commute to their job. I want to commute and come home to peace, and come home to no noise, come home to just the normalcy of what we have right now, and not increase it. And I'm also a union member, so I support unions, but this is not the place in the neighborhood for this center to be built. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Next.
Next, I'd like to acknowledge those who submitted public comment via email to the city clerk's office. Those emails have been distributed to the city council, have been placed in a binder in the back of the council chambers, and have been uploaded to the city's website. In order, not necessarily that we received them, but that I have on this sheet of paper, is Ken Cooley, Kate Carroll, Tara Kolvenbach, Steven Pico, Lisa Phoenix, Aaron Simatic, Rakisha Tawari, Eileen Sedilko, Greg Meilenberg, Pablo Cotillo, Pamela Fuller, Jim Garcia, Alan Vosper, Angel Ball, Brent Hansen, Jennifer Garcia, Sherry Wheeler, Donald Mooney, Valerie Knipschild, James Garcia, Eric Weiniger, Pixie Moyo, Sarah Malone, Marilyn Metzger, Don Davison, and Frank Hall.
Okay.
There's one additional hand that is in Zoom. It's Davis, which I believe under that name may have already spoken.
Yeah, he did. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're finished with public comment now. And so we'll come back to the council and ask for questions or comments.
I have a couple of questions for the city attorney. The commenter that I believe was also an attorney mentioned, one they mentioned a project-specific EIR could now be mandated. Could you respond to that?
Sure. I believe you're referring to perhaps Ms. Hanson's comments.
I believe so.
Yeah, her letter came in late this afternoon. We listened carefully to it and have reviewed it. Yeah, we stand by the analysis we've done so far and again, we thought carefully about the issues that she raised. We thought carefully about this argument that the EIR and those documents have become stale by virtue of time. We also helped assemble with the city manager at the council's request, an outside council team that included both CEQA litigators and individuals who have worked statewide on warehouses, as have Tim and other members of our team. We believe the analysis that an exemption applies here is correct, and we are quite confident that even with additional time, we would still reach that conclusion.
My second question is about the letter from Attorney Gloria Smith. I'm not seeing a date on here, but it looks like we marked it as item 18.1, or well, I don't know, I guess that's this item. Anyways, in the letter, it refers to cityhood and the fact that the county took this action, but that somebody was already circulating a petition for cityhood. Therefore, we don't have to inherit the DA. What's your response to that? In kind of looking over a lot of this in the last couple of weeks, to me, that was a fairly novel approach.
Sure. So one of the issues is how did the county treat the issue of factually, that's correct, that the DA was approved after the vote for incorporation occurred. I think that there's a number of different ways that you can look at the issue. The LAFCO resolution did address this issue, and I think that overall we think that the result of the LAFCO action and read in the context of that statute is that the DA was in effect and that the time limits don't apply. We also think that the series of actions that the city took from the first action to the subsequent actions did constitute actions that bind the city to the DA at this point. I think it is procedurally, we think that, and even just as a matter of choice and affirmation, the city did validate and amend and restate that the DA remained in effect through those series of actions.
Mm-hmm. Those are the only two questions I had for now.
Okay, Garrett. Any questions? None. Siri.
So the residents brought about this question about sensitive receptors that should be more than 1,000 feet away from school. And the fact that this violates the California Attorney General's recommendation that warehouses should be at least 1,000 feet and the actual distance is less than that. Is that a valid statement?
So we are not here dealing with a situation of the blank slate on whether or not you're approving a warehouse.
I just want to know if that's a valid statement in general.
Whether the Attorney General's statement that that sensitive receptors should be 1,000 feet away. Yeah, I don't take issue with that. There is also a piece of legislation that's moving through for two counties where there's a request for there to be separation requirements So I don't take issue with,
So yes or no answer? Yes, it is. It's yes or no. Answer her question.
I'll be happy to look at that.
Look at the environmental questionnaire that Ramadi first submitted November 2022.
Siri, do you have another question? Or Adam,
I'll
would
be-
you
I'll
like
be
to take
happy-
another shot at that?
Sure, I'd be happy to take a look at that issue, but we're not here dealing with the blank slate of just applying a new Attorney General standard.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a few questions. Adam, I was around in 2002. I was around in 1998, even before we were a city, and saw this development working its way through the county process. And clearly, what people at the time thought of as a warehouse or a light industrial space, but certainly a warehouse, is vastly different now than then. Then it would have been 20 feet tall, maybe, I don't know, the largest might have been 30, 40,000 square feet, something like that. Not like what's being proposed now. So could you sort of explain the legal interpretation of how warehouse then becomes warehouse now, even though they're vastly different uses?
Sure. So I did, in the course of the work on this, look back at, there was a rule of thumb guideline that was cited by the developer for warehouse standards. We did try to find what the county standard was for the size of warehouses in the past. The developer in one of its letters cited an industry guideline rule of thumb that was, when we looked at it, about 10 years out of date, and we actually found the first edition long ago, around the time that the project was approved. We looked for county guidance on exactly whether there was a limitation to the size of warehouses. And there is no question that the size of warehouses has increased somewhat in that time, but from the rule of thumb documents in the industry, it was not the case that they were all the size you just said. And also, we couldn't find any limitation in the county code, nor could we find any limitation when we talked to the county planners from that era. We specifically tried to find the county planners who were on the job in the late 1990s and 2000s to see if there were any limitations that they had on the size of warehouses in these zoning codes, and the answer was no.
Like Jeff Gamble probably would have been the county employee.
We did reach
I'm
out
guessing.
specifically, he was on one of the people on the list, so we went and we tried to find and see, can you help us find any limitations on the size, any limitations on the density, any limitations on the intensity of use that would have been built into this code that was in the foundation of the specific plan, and we didn't.
Because
So-
these mega warehouses just didn't exist then.
No.
I mean, these are an innovation of, I don't know, maybe the last decade or less, where we've really seen them proliferate.
So if we had found any, again, the DA specifically talks about not limiting the density or intensity of use, but if we had been able to find anything, or if anyone else had been able to find anything, we would certainly be talking to you about it now.
I want to thank all the public commenters tonight. You guys did an exceptional job of being civil and making really great comments. And I've said this before to you guys as a group. I think in a lot of communities, you would label people who are opposed to a project as NIMBYs. You know, like, no matter what it is, I'm going to be opposed. That's what NIMBY generally means in these sort of city processes. But you guys are not that at all. You're very, you've done a ton of research. You're very fact-based. You're trying to understand the process. You recognize that, things are stacked against you and community wishes. But you're putting up a great, reasonable, logical fight, and I really appreciate that. So I heard a few things tonight, from public comment, I just would like to get staff response to. So the EIR originally done with this project, and I don't know what the date of that study would have been, if it was 1998 or 2002, somewhere in that time frame, did not include any reference to PM 2.5. So I thought we had heard previously that PM 2.5 was analyzed in the original EIR that would have been attached to this project, or in the CEQA air quality chapter. I'm unable to check that right up here, but is that something we have an answer to? That, just to remind everybody, that's the, you know, the dangerous part of the air quality problem, as I think Eric was stating here tonight. Back then, we would have thought it was probably larger particulate matter. Later, after that date, we decided it was much smaller particulate matter that was a bigger problem. The large stuff was probably not such a problem. I'm no expert in that field, but I, you know, flip through studies, and I sort of see a lot of research activity in that area in the past 10 years, maybe 15 years.
David, I think, I thought you brought this up at one of the meetings, and what I had looked up, and I'm the person on the air district.
He's on
for
our
the
air
city,
district, just for clarity, yeah.
That there has been a standard since the 90s.
A federal one.
Right. The standard has changed on PM 2.5, but it existed when this happened, when they did this. I don't recall if it was part of the EIR, the CEQA document that was done, but I think we established that we were aware what 2.5 was, but the standard at which they regulate it has drastically changed over the years, especially depending on the different federal administrations. In the last one, they were trying to weaken it. I think that the two previous to that, they were strengthening it as far as bringing the acceptable level lower. Where it was within this document, I don't recall, but it existed. It was something that was studied and known at the time, and it was a part of the Clean Air Act renewal or whatever, sometime, I want to say in the 90s. I don't have that in front of me.
Yeah, that's accurate, Donald, because we have talked about that before.
If you don't have anything readily available, Adam, I'll just move on.
I'll come back to it. Continue.
Albert, I see you sitting back there. There was a resident, I think Valerie, brought up a roundabout.
Yeah.
At that intersection. I'm not sure that has been broached here on this topic before. If it has, I can't readily recall it. That's a very interesting idea. I don't know if they're applicable to large trucks, so it's sort of a question to you. Is that possible in this site?
Yeah, and I believe you're referring to the intersection of Bear Hollow and Zinfandel?
Yeah,
No,
that's
it's North Mather, Baroque, South Leg, and Zinfandel.
Right.
Thank you. There are significant challenges with placing roundabouts on 6-lane roads, which is eventually what that's going to be striped as it continues south towards the county. The challenges associated with that are pedestrians attempting to cross that without controlled stops. So just from the perspective of pedestrian access, they can create challenges in operations. As far as Vice Mayor Sander, your question with how trucks would interact with that, we would have to do additional analysis on the turn movements to see if that was a constraint to truck traffic or not.
It's an interesting point, though, pedestrian safety. That's something we could consider at a future date, obviously, if it was safe. And we don't want to consider, like, what's it called in Paris around the Arc de Triomphe?
It's non-attribution.
Yeah, where that's just,
It means
it's just actually chaos there is what it is.
If you run into somebody, you're not allowed to
If you have too
sue
many
them.
lanes, that's interesting.
Didn't you watch European Vacation?
I don't remember that part. Okay, Mitch, I think, others also brought up truck noise. And I mentioned that when I lived in this neighborhood, there was a lot of the beep, beep, beep noise that came from forklifts in neighboring recycling yards, sort of across the canal on Sunrise. And that is a noise issue we need to find a way to address. But this might actually be a question for the applicant. Do trucks maneuvering around a parking lot have to sound that same sort of beep, beep, beep sound in order to back in or back out or maneuver? So every heavy truck operation, if it's backing up, will have to
Somebody must drive a truck.
Anybody have any information about this?
Anything with a reverse of that size, has that kind
You get a ticket for not having it, probably, would be my guess.
So it sounds like there's general consensus.
Sounds
that
like
that
general
might be
consensus, yes.
That might be a requirement.
Val pointed out there's a hospital nearby, very interesting consideration.
No.
Someone shouted out, I shouldn't give credit to someone who's not following the rules, that this is not a game, it's real life, but. And then someone made the comment, no benefits to this neighborhood.
Yeah.
I think that point's been made a bit up here. So we kind of find ourselves just looking at design review with a use decision not being available to us, that all of that having been defined by an SPA and a DA
Yep.
largely of decades ago. The design is improved, but we're still bound by an old county zoning code that's sort of living its third or fourth life. I do want to clarify that I don't think anyone up here has sought this use. This isn't an application we sought or looked for. The city is not putting it there. I would venture to say that if we had our choice, this would not happen. We have done nothing to promote it or recruit it or stimulate it or request it. It came in under the laws that are the laws of the land. And so I think if the use was in front of us, we'd be having a very different discussion. But instead, we're having this one. So with that, Madam, those are my comments.
Okay. Garrett, did you have an opportunity to comment? You did. You okay? Siri? Okay, all right.
Those were questions. We're going to get to comment now, right?
Later. You said, do you have any
Well,
questions?
That's all
I
you
said,
asked.
no, I said questions or comments. So that's where we are.
Mayor, could I follow up briefly on Mr. Sanders' comments?
And I would say, staff, if there's anything that was heard by you in the room that you want to respond to, I would certainly suggest you have that opportunity. And I would think the applicant would have probably the same opportunity.
Well, there were two things that weren't accurate. Somebody suggested that the first EIR was 88 when it was really 98. And then unfortunately, respectfully, because I was taking intense notes the other day at Regional Transit, and quite frankly, the person from SACOG, Sam Shelton, and then the person from the Air Quality District, Jaime Lemus. Okay, they are the ones who came up with the percentage of smog, and they said that trucks are only 3% of smog generation, whereas our small passenger vehicles, which have always been the bane of smog generation in California, are the 23%. So the statistic is flipped. But that's the only thing I know that was not accurate. So did you have a comment, Adam, or is it my turn?
Yeah, two brief comments. One, doubling back to Councilmember Polipati's comment, my brief understanding is that what the AG has promulgated or distributed is not binding standards on warehouse approvals, but it's rather suggested new mitigations for CEQA analysis that would be considered on projects where they could be applied. So I don't think that our understanding is that the AG has distributed requirements that are placed on cities. So that's why the future context rather than the existing situation would matter to that analysis. Second,
No, that was all to say no.
Second, their particular matter was analyzed in the EIR, and we have talked about previously that the adoption of new regulations that address particular new standards and adopt new particular standards aren't one of the triggers for reopening a prior CEQA analysis. Particulate matter in general was addressed, and the exact specificity of the EIR to address the issue that you raised isn't clear, but the regulations subsequently changing don't trigger the reopener for CEQA under the relevant sections of the guideline and code.
Okay.
Thank you, Adam. Mayor, we have actually, we just had questions. I guess we had to still make our comments, or are you going to go another round?
I'm still going to make comments.
We can go back again.
Got it. Okay.
But
Thank you.
it's my turn.
Yeah.
All right. And so I want to agree with David, number one, that none of us are happy about being here. This is not a situation that we wanted or asked for. And quite frankly, for me, as a planner, it's even worse because as one of the two representatives of the Chamber of Commerce, I was a part of the whole writing the ordinances, drafting the plan for the villages. We had chamber representatives, we had county representatives, we had landowner representatives, we had the FAA, we had Caltrans Aeronautics, and I know that some of you who've been to several of these meetings have heard me say that before, but for the rest of you, that's what we did. And you don't have to look any further than the buildings up and down Kilgore to see, as David said, what was the common light industrial warehouse of the time. That is exactly what we thought. We were writing into the special planning area for our neighborhood. And so we find ourselves in a situation where we really are very, very limited in what we can do, because as a planner, I also understand vested rights. And they began to be used about 15 years ago commonly, probably in response to ups and downs in the economy, so that property owners would have the right to do something on a long-term basis. So as a planner, I have been trying to figure out, and with apologies, Eric, it's just more lipstick on the pig, okay? But what can we do to help this project look better? One of the things that's been mentioned is the fact that it doesn't match anything in Stone Creek, or more specifically, the Tuscany Village, where majority of you all live. And I agree. And so one of the things I have asked is that they start by the very simple step of changing the color of the building. For the majority of Stone Creek, our houses are all in earth tones. They're not blue and gray. So let's make the building look better, okay? And let's do something. And let's do something to the characteristics of the building. 2 weeks ago, I drove 16 hours from Tucson and saw warehouses everywhere. Some of the ones in Arizona were incredibly ugly. Some of the ones on 215 between San Bernardino and Pasadena were much better looking, and I brought photographs that I gave to staff. But the other thing, this document that we were all sent today from the Attorney General, Warehouse Projects, and you're right, it's called Best Practices and Mitigation Measures. And there's several things in there that...
Mayor, you're admitting defeat.
There are several things in there that need to be considered. If we had this document at the beginning of this conversation, then perhaps we could have talked about reversing the orientation of the building so that the truck bays would point towards the runway as opposed to in the opposite direction. So one of the things we need to ensure is that the site design provides for adequate on-site parking for trucks that are not at the loading docks, so that they are not out taking up our streets. And it may very well be that, similar to some of the conversations on Next Door today, that in the future, we need to look at something like formal truck parking in one of the industrial areas. There's a lot of conversation in the Attorney General's document about planning for zero emission future of goods movement, making sure that the electrical capacity and the conduit is there so that the loading docks can be converted to EV charging, mandating electrical plugs at every docking station for refrigerated trucks, providing EV chargers for employees, variety of things like that, making sure that there are amenities on site for truck drivers who've come in from a long distance so that they have access to restrooms, vending machines, and air conditioning, making sure that if there's a public address system on the site, that when the noise is at the property line, it doesn't exceed 45 decibels. That's in terms of the operation of the building. During construction, to mandate the use of electric tools to the extent feasible rather than diesel-powered, including heavy equipment, set a limit on the amount of time that heavy equipment is allowed to idle during construction, enforce California's fugitive dust requirements for the construction sites, and adopt a formal truck routing plan designed to ensure safe routes to schools, and design specific spots for on-site employee pickup and drop-off. And it seems to me that since we were sent this, that we should at least try to take advantage of some of the things that have been suggested in here and incorporate them into this project that none of us like. So that's my comment. So
can I make a comment, please?
I was just going to say, Donald, if you have not had a comment opportunity, please go ahead.
Thanks. So along the lines of what David said, first, I want to thank the residents that have worked on this for the last 10 months. I remember when I first got on council, we were discussing sidewalks and who was going to be responsible for fixing broken sidewalks and whether or not homeowners were going to do it. The city did it at the time, and 20 people came in here and calmly shared their thoughts and their opposition to the ordinance that we were thinking about. And I remember the Sacramento Bee wrote a story saying that the city council ran into a buzzsaw of opposition from the local community. I took offense to it then. I would take offense to anybody describing the people that are opposed to this project as anything other than being concerned for their community. You've been thoughtful. You've been, for the most part, respectful to all parties involved with this. And I get your frustration, but I appreciate your engagement. If you don't want to see projects like this in the future, stay engaged. And it may make developers think twice before they go through all of this headache and work to get to this. Very few of our developments take this long in planning or take this many attorneys. The second thing, though, is I want to share a story about when I was running for city council. I was in a debate down at the county building with Mr. Sander and a few other folks, and a reporter asked me what my opinion was of an eminent domain action that the city had taken on Folsom Boulevard. Happens to be exactly where we're planning the Mills Station or Mills Crossing project now that we own it 10 years later. And they asked me what my opinion was of the legal action that the city took in the ultimate lawsuit and court case and everything else. And my answer to them was, I don't really have the ability to question that action because I was never in closed session getting legal advice like the city council did. In this case and in this issue, we've been threatened by litigation from the developer. About a month ago or so, we were again threatened by lawyers representing the residents. I was the city council member that asked for a second independent evaluation of this and looking at all sides and all arguments that have been made, which is the Hanson-Bridget report that we received, that agrees with the city attorney. And I think you've heard this be reiterated multiple times, but I'll just describe to you the risk to the city financially for denying this project could amount to more than a third of our general fund. That pays for cops, that pays for police, that pays for roads and storm drains and lots of other things that could be at risk if we were to deny this project. I don't like this project. I didn't want this project. I wasn't a part of getting it to this part. But I don't believe I have the power to stop it. So,
Okay.
excuse me. I listened to every person that talked, and I didn't interrupt you. Please don't interrupt me. That being said, everything that Linda brought up, great ideas. If we want to condition them or we can in the future, awesome. I would absolutely want to do everything you said. I hope soon we do have a discussion about future warehouse projects, not only here, and ones that have DAs and ones that have vested rights, but also for any new developed areas that we have not zoned yet. But at this point, and I would say from the very beginning, I was pretty surprised that the movement was moving towards just tell us that or just deny it when this is a design review, and it has been since the very beginning. I think the risk that we also have if we were to deny the project outright and this went to trial or this went to court is that all of those things that our staff said in the beginning that they got as concessions to the developer, the design, the color, the bigger trees, which was something I asked for, some of the ingress, egress of where the trucks will come from and where they have to turn. If this went to the court, they don't have to abide by any of that. And so the advice that I've gotten from our city attorney, from an outside legal firm, is that the city does not have the ability to deny this, and if we tried to, a court would approve it anyways. And so at this point, as I look at everything, and I'm sure I'm a supporter of unions and I want to see things get built, I don't want to see this project here, but I don't believe even if I vote no that this project will be prevented.
Garrett.
All right. Art Kuhn, I really appreciate you calling my citizens dumb. And probably when you're trying to pitch me towards going towards your idea, probably don't say we're infantile when we're talking about law. That's not what I need, and I didn't need that. If you look at what happened, I talked with an assembly member, Reyes, who was actually trying to push through a bill, AB 2840, which was a law that they were trying to stop warehouses from being built in San Bernardino. And goodness, if it wouldn't come out that the same people that are here are the reason that law was trying to be put into play. I know, that's interesting. As you guys probably have heard up here, I'm disappointed because I feel like not my council was doing the right thing, but the information that we were getting was wrong. And so you probably have seen that I'm angered towards the people that are giving me and my council the information that says that no matter what, this is gonna push through and you guys have nothing you can say to protect us. Might be true, might be not, but it's really hard to get it. And Donald was nice enough to go and help me get a second opinion, even though I didn't get to pick the second opinion or find out where the second opinion was from or getting that information, but we got a second opinion. So that's great. I am 100% with you guys, and I am saddened that it got this way, and I'm hurt that even Dermody had to come here thinking that they were going to push through this idea and threaten us, but that we wouldn't immediately say no. Why have $125 million in the bank if you can't defend yourself when the wolf comes to the counter? Of course, we don't want warehouses. And I don't know how to mitigate a warehouse to make it so it's pretty. It's a giant 40-foot warehouse next to our schools. And big trucks are going to come in the neighborhood and they're not going to be controlled by us and all this area. And we could say no. We could say no. And we could go to court, and everyone's told me all the different things. Here's what I do know. If you go to court, it's 3 to 5 years. This happens to be California, where we care about stuff like, I don't know, clean air and particulates and whatever, and the citizens. And we probably would then, even if we lost, we'd go back to court, which would be another 3 to 5 years. And even if we started putting money aside, at $1 million a pop, seeing that we make over 24 million from you guys in our Measure H and Measure R, we still could pay for that fund and have protected our citizens. And who knows what's going to happen in 10 years? Maybe the AB 2840 that Rancho Cordova is now getting ready to be part of will pass. And maybe there's something we can do to take care of that. Because really, it's not that we're anti-warehouses at all. In fact, we have a partner that's building amazing warehouse out in that. And of course, we do have something called an airport, like, I don't know, block and a half away, that also would be an amazing part for this facility to be next to. But we don't have it there. We have it next to our school. And it's just like kind of the time that Rancho Cordova got 3 strip clubs stuck in it right at the last minute, and no one was able to stand up. Well, at this point, our community, we can actually stand up to protect ourselves. We could. Of course, I don't have the litigation to be able to stand there and protect you guys because I just don't have the right partners yet in place. So I just feel like at this point, you have to listen to the, I don't know, 300 to 500 citizens that said no, that probably represent, that talk to 5 to 10 people, which, you know, sometime we're getting into 1,500. If 1,500 of those people start to discuss with individuals and feel like it's going to be a bad situation, then you're almost getting up to maybe 20 to 30,000 people in the community that would really like us to say no and go to war. And discuss with these gentlemen about how it went in as one and came out as another. And if all these rules don't have any comments, the ZBOT doesn't count. I would rather get sued by the developer than by my citizens, since one of the two of those is my boss. And if my boss is saying, for God, if my boss wants to spend potentially $10 million, which is a magical number that came out of nowhere, then my bosses get to spend $10 million defending themselves. Because in the end, I think we're about to become away from the county, which is going to divest us, which I think is going to be another $100 million that's going to come into the city. We have all these other potential things, and this is the one time we're saying not no, but not right there. I mean, I hate that my unions got dragged into this because I support these guys. I'm 100%. I want more. We want more construction jobs than ever else. We're the highest per capita private sector job in the region. And why is that? Because we are the most business friendly when it comes to most things. Hell, I'm the council member that's voted the most friendly, the most likely to say yes to construction projects, but not at the cost of my citizens. I can't. I mean, they're saying you want to mitigate it. I want 100-foot redwoods surrounding the whole thing so it looks like a redwood forest. Can I have that on planning? No, of course not. There's nothing we can do to make this pig have. And I would just expect that we would say no, and that we would let someone other than us make that declaration. Like if we go up to a court in California, and the court in California, one of those most litigated states in the world, was like, hey, you know what, guys? At least I could look at the citizenry and be like, hey, I tried. And look, it went by us. We understand you guys don't want this. But of course, I would have to have the right partner in place to help me say no. And right now, you've heard what my other partner says all the time to my poor council members. So that being said, I just don't see a way in planning to make this. I do think that we should look at the future because 20 years ago, CEQA and all those particulates didn't exist, and to pump a bunch of diesel fuel in there. Now, if you guys were coming to me and say, I don't like the airport, I'd be like, you move next to an airport. You didn't move. When you looked at it, even from Harry Elliott's thing, he said it was light industrial, which now somehow magically has become 42 mega warehouses. And they're going to be giant, and we're going to put 230. That's not light industrial. I was excited about it. I'm not going to lie to you. I was excited about the plan because it was going to be a warehouse space next to office. And I was excited because I was thinking I was going to move my business there. I'm purely selfish. But to think that they're going to put this next to a school and the school district doesn't want it. I mean, what are we really thinking about here? Now, is there a way we can make the developer whole and have him find another home? I mean, it's not like we have, I don't know, what was the last term? 400,000 acres in the city of Rancho Cordova that we could help you guys to find. There's so many ways to make this, there's so many ways to make this partnership work out to where you can be a benefit and not a hurt us. Like, what do you want? Where can we find a home for this amazing property? I want the jobs. I just don't want it in that location. And it's not like you have to threaten us. Come negotiate. Where do you want to be? How about the airport? That's a block away. Like, what? I think we own a quarter of it at this point. Sorry. As we make these corrections to facilitate taking those next steps, I just really want this partnership to work. And Dermody doesn't have to come in here and be the enemy. He can be the partner that we've wanted. The problem is you're in a spot that hurts a lot of my citizens. And even if I tried to plan it away, there's no way to plan it away. There's no way to plan away the particulates. And we're okay with you moving a block away. And why can't we do that? Why can't we sit down as a partnership and find you the, 5, 10 acres you need to make you so you're a win? And then all my citizens get to complain to me about how much we paid for the piece of property that you now have and the new home that you're going to be. I mean, I'm not allowed to, I don't know how you're allowed to say that. I don't know. I'm sure the lawyer's going to be mad at me again. But that being said, I don't see the way to plan this away. I do see that there's still possibly a win in this to where my citizens can feel success in this. There's tons of property that we own in the city, just not next to the school and next to people's houses. And I'm pretty sure you get a win. And if there's a way for us to partner to make this work out, let's find that win. Because you don't want to go down as another city that hates Dermody. I mean, eventually it starts to affect your stock portfolio if everyone starts to turn to you. And literally, the state government is trying to pass something right now that we're attached to stop you from building. Why would you want that? Instead of being like, well, I came to Rancho Cordova, we were going to push this through. We talked to the council, we figured out this isn't the right spot. And so when we walked around and said, we really like this spot, and we're like, we really like you liking that spot. I mean, there's a lot of space in Rancho. I mean, we have a whole other side of the city that still needs to be developed that could be a spot for that warehouse, just not next to it. Like, to put warehouses after people's housing, I mean, it's not even NIMBYism. There's no housing in this. It's just, it's not able, the planning part, we're not able to mitigate the pain that we're able to give to our citizens. And so you guys probably can feel as a group where my heart is right now. I mean, I'm a Democrat. I'm for the little guy. That's kind of what we do. And I just think that if we could take this, if we take it like a pause, just for a second to really think, like, is there a win-win instead of us as citizenry? Because guess what? My bosses want to sue you. My bosses have said that I can't vote for this because they're scared for their community. Kids, particulates, all this stuff. I don't know about the Swanson hawk, but I did see 2 of them land in that area and lay eggs. So if we can get the environmentalists out there just to take a check, those dang Swansons. Swainson's hawks. I saw 6 of those hawks and 5 elderberry bushes that I think just got planted there. But that being said, we as a community, we come together, we care about it, we care about business. We're one of the largest private sector jobs in the commission. This can't be mitigated away. If you put it across the street from people's houses, there's no, what I always say when I do this kind of stuff, we had a big argument with the Civic Center as a group. The community wasn't happy and they thought we were doing stuff without them. So I traveled around, walked around to everyone and explained to them why housing made sense here, activating the space. I was willing to go to war with our council and talk to you guys because I wanted you in. I can't figure out a way, even through the law, to make this happen and not make everyone upset because it degrades the housing, does all this bad stuff to this community. When it'd be different if we were landlocked and there was no one else to build. And I think that's what the whole community is saying. We already have space for you, set aside, worked out, that would make this a win for us. But right now, you're pushing through something that's not a win. And literally, we've been slapping lipstick on this pig for hours now. And I feel bad because Jim Garcia, I mean, they've had to spend, my citizens had to spend their own money to hire their own lawyer to sue us. That's like my employee, that'd be my boss suing me to make me do what I know is right. So that's, at this point, Ivy, Rick, James, Jennifer, Gregory, Marlon, David, Allie, Valerie, Ben, Sergio, Yolanda, Expedite, 1,500 in, 8,000 in. I've heard you. I know where you guys want us to go. And I really think the council is going to surprise you and go in the right direction. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Garrett. Siri?
Thank you, Councilmember Garrett, for your passionate comments. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all our residents who are attending here in person today and all those on Zoom. It is really encouraging to see so many residents come together to express your views on such an important matter. You know, I know that speaking in front of a group of people can be intimidating, but I want to commend each and every one of you for your bravery and willingness to voice your opinion. Your input is valuable. I have read each and every email that you guys have sent. I've heard all of your comments, and I've read the staff report like 10 times over. Now, I do understand that this development has caused a lot of anxiety among our residents, and I want to ensure that we are listening to you. I also want to commend the applicant for taking into account the community's concerns and incorporating conditions that reflect the feedback received from residents. You know, the updated visual renderings and modifications to the landscape, you know, you've shown desire to work with the city and its residents. You know, your lawyer stated the fact that you don't change the rules in the middle of the game. You're right. Unfortunately, we didn't know that there was a game being played. We didn't know when the rules started. So this game started without a lot of folks going into this game without knowing any of the rules that they had to stick to. Now, I also understand that this proposed project may bring economic benefits to our city, jobs, but we cannot ignore the deep-rooted issues and impact that the citizens have on the safety and the risks it poses to the residents in the area. We have a responsibility to prioritize the safety and the well-being of our community. And I hear your concerns that the construction of such a massive warehouse could potentially accelerate certain health concerns. My main issue is the concerns that I hear on the potential negative impact on the health and safety of the residents in the area. The size and scale of the warehouse are simply too massive, is what my residents feel, and they could result in a significant increase in air and noise pollution that could impact their daily life. As a socially responsible elected official, I cannot ignore the potential harm that this project could cause to the community. I must prioritize the well-being of my fellow citizens over any potential financial gain. Now, there is a lot of information we've heard so far. We've heard from the lawyers on both sides, our city council, we've heard from a third-party lawyer as well. So based on the information that I've received so far, I believe that there are some areas where the proposed project could be improved. Are we going for a direction here, Mayor? Yeah. Okay. So my recommendation is we direct the applicant to make additional modifications to the proposal that could include changes to the design or scope of the project or other adjustments that could address any concerns raised by the members of the community. I hope you understand the way my decision is coming across and consider proposals that align with our community values. Thank you.
Thank you, Siri. David?
I kind of made my comments earlier. I thought we were doing questions and comments. I think my colleagues are very well spoken on this topic. I won't add to them at this point.
And I agree. I agree. So we need to provide staff with direction on what to come back with at the next meeting. And I would ask that similar to what Siri said, that planning staff work with the applicant on some of the things, the simple things like the colors and the exterior design and the zero emission improvements, making sure that there are no loudspeakers that get off the property. I think, Darcy, I think you've got a copy of the thing. The applicant got a copy also. And, you know, here again, the irony of all this is just exactly what's been said. The very first sentence in the Attorney General's document here is, in recent years, the proliferation of e-commerce and rising consumer expectations of rapid shipping have contributed to a boom in warehouse development. That's what's going on. It wasn't this way before, and Garrett may have a point. Maybe in 10 years it won't be this way again. But there's not a lot we can do about it right now. So does anybody have?
So is that a motion?
Yeah, I would make that motion that we keep the public hearing open, but we ask staff to return with the necessary findings to unfortunately approve the project. And because there will be, so we're going to ask, we're going to leave the public hearing open, but we're going to ask that when people come back next time, whenever it's scheduled, that their comments be about the new documents that we'll be seeing, the findings documents, because unfortunately at this point we've heard eloquently all of the information and all of the statistics. And we just need to comment on the whatever findings you bring back and make sure that there's enough in it that people feel they got something out of it. So we need a second. Or somebody needs to make an alternate motion.
So my motion is for the staff to come with more modifications to the design review with more input from the community. So then they are in alignment with what they proposed. So I don't think right now we're going for an approval as is. Is that what you're recommending, Linda?
We actually have a deadline. And so staff is trying to adhere to that legal deadline.
I'd like to make a motion that we decline it outright.
Well, that would be a substitute motion, Garrett.
Okay, I'd like to make a
Because-
substitute motion that we decline it outright.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Stacy, you want to call the roll?
Councilmember Gatewood.
Yes.
Councilmember Pulapati.
Yes.
Councilmember Terry.
No.
Vice Mayor Sander.
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
No. So the motion carries. So So staff is being asked to return with documents of findings to deny the project. And we will keep the public hearing open until that time. And we will ask that people plan to make their comments, any comments that are necessary based on the document of findings.
Can I make an additional motion? I would ask staff to work with the applicant, see if it is possible to find an additional site and under which terms that alternate site could be utilized for this purpose.
I will second that. Stacy, call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sander.
Aye.
Councilmember Pulapati.
Yes.
Councilmember Terry.
Aye.
Councilmember Gatewood.
Yes.
Mayor Budge.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay. We have no regular calendar items tonight. Do we have council requests for future agenda items?
No.
Hearing none, we are adjourned. Good night, everyone. Thank you for staying so long.